right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. We are live on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. Got a new phone number today. We've got the upgraded phone system, 253-263-1540. 253-263-1540. There is a lot to talk about today. There is a lot of Disney news to unpack this morning as well. So give me a call, 253-263-1540. Good morning. We are live here on TikTok. We are live on YouTube. I've got the comments on both sides. So good to see you all. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey now, hey now, hey now. 253-263-1540. There is a special, good morning everybody, on Shop Disney. Buy 3, get 1 free. You can hear the sirens behind me. Buy 3, get 1 free on the Shop Disney website. Thank you, Tom. So that is holiday home goods and things of that nature. I got that email this morning, so I am reminding you. Thank you for your support over there on TikTok. But that's the deal. Buy 3, get 1 free on the Shop Disney website. I got the email this morning, so I'm here reminding you. But I got the new phone system, so I'm like super pumped to talk to you. We're live on YouTube, I think. Are we live on YouTube? Yeah, we're there. We're there. And we're live on TikTok. Give me a call. So that's the story there. Now, tomorrow, Disney has an earnings call. So we're going to get some good information, hopefully some positive information, out of Disney tomorrow, all right? So that will be something that I unpack on the podcast this weekend with Kenzie. It's something we can talk about Monday. Hopefully we'll hear from Tezzy. I know he's been anticipating tomorrow's earnings. So on the Disney front, there is a lot to talk about this morning. But I do really want to talk to you. 253-263-1540. Is anybody over on YouTube? Let me know if you're on the YouTube side of things. Say hi over here on TikTok. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal on TikTok. That's going to let me know that you like what we're doing here. We'll be in the parks at some point this week, I assure you. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. But before I get to the Disney news, it was, let's talk a little business. It came to my attention this morning, going through the headlines, that the Spirit Airlines merger with Frontier has been nixed. Spirit Airlines is filing for bankruptcy, to which I say good riddance, because if you've ever flown Spirit Airlines, and I'm sure somebody else will scoop them up, but if you've ever flown Spirit Airlines, to use Nick's phraseology, it is the taxi cab of the sky. Literally, it is the taxi cab of the sky. So good riddance to Spirit, whoever gobbles them up. I hope that you do your best to revitalize the brand. There was a time that I liked Spirit, but the customer service is horrible. Rosie, thank you for your support. Customer service is horrible. There is a new phone number this morning, 253-263-1540. I'm still trying to work out the bugs. I'm trying to improve the audio levels over there on YouTube, Britt. So I think I brought those up enough. I don't know. I don't see anybody in the chat. Oh, there's Cameron. Good morning. I guess with the chat on in TikTok, it makes it a little bit easier for you all. So good morning, everybody. Disney earnings call tomorrow. But here's what I want to talk about, and I can hear Ellis's ears perking up as I'm about to say what I'm about to say. Lucasfilm announced yesterday that after much introspection, and I'm paraphrasing, that they have decided that, and let me find the words. They have become aware that their most valuable asset as pertaining to Star Wars, are you ready for this? It's Rey. It's Rey. Lucasfilm has announced that Rey will be the character that they put the most into future projects, I should say, excuse me. I don't know why Disney acquired Lucasfilm if you think some character you developed beyond the acquisition is your most valuable asset. You spent billions of dollars to acquire a legacy product, and now you're saying you're going to turn Rey into the Obi-Wan of the series? You have an entire galaxy of characters to explore. That is what you've arrived at? The brand is, I don't understand what's going on in the House of Mouse. I saw a photo the other day of the new Haunted Mansion gift shop that opened up in Disneyland, or that's about to open up in Disneyland. What? It looks like a shed from Lowe's, and it doesn't even fit the theme of either side of what's going on. So I don't know what's going on in this company. I was ranting about the Muppets yesterday and how they don't have anybody showing them what to do with the Muppets, but they're literally tanking Star Wars. And look, I love Star Wars, but I'm not one of these people that like holds on to it like, you're ruining my childhood. But from a business perspective, to think that all the IP you're sitting on doesn't hold value, that blows my mind. The most valuable character, theoretically, in the Star Wars franchise would be Luke Skywalker because it's the Skywalker saga. Then you could go and you could say you've got Han and Leia and, of course, Vader. And you could talk about, Chewie and Yoda and R2 and 3PO and all of that. In fact, if you would have said any one of the legacy characters was the answer to your problems, I'd sign up. I'll buy that. But if Lucasfilm thinks Rey is the most valuable character they have in their arsenal, then that tells you all you need to know about the future of not just Lucasfilm, but Disney as a whole. What boggles my mind is, if you're going to acquire all this IP, mine the IP. Otherwise, invest in original storytelling, a la the early days of Pixar, and create some new IP. Buzz Lightyear didn't come from anywhere but somebody's imagination. Thank you, Kanta. Appreciate the support. Contributing to that gift goal helps a lot. But at some point, you have to invest in original storytelling. And if you're saying to me that Rey, because by the way, Rey is not derived from original storytelling. Okay, what I read is Lucasfilm said that they're in the nostalgia. Star Wars is nostalgia, and they're running out of nostalgia. How? How is that possible? That just means you don't understand the brand. I want to know what your thoughts are on that. Wow, I need more coffee. I want to know what your thoughts are on that. Give me a call, 253-263-1540. I think what we're going to do is maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning is do these live radio broadcasts. Great opportunity to speak with you, have you call in, ask questions. And by the way, I've got a lot to talk about, but you can call in and ask me anything. I don't care if you derail me. I'm totally fine with that. And then we'll do the podcast with Kenzie, which is pre-recorded, and that comes out over the weekend. And that'll leave us plenty of time to explore the parks and do gaming and all of those things. So as we figure this out together, we'll have this foundation to have longer form conversation. We'll get back into the parks at some point, and I think what you'll see is that these conversations will start to bleed back into those park streams. But what this affords us the opportunity to do, and I said this from the get-go Monday morning, is to start having longer form conversation. Start using this platform to talk about anything and everything. If there's something going on in your community and you want to bring it to the spotlight here, albeit I don't know how big the spotlight really is in the grand scheme of things, but we'll grow it together. And I want to take the time, if you've been with me for 3.5 plus almost 4 years at this point, okay, then you know where my head and my heart is at as far as these issues are concerned. So I want to just start using this platform to have honest conversations about all things. All things. And like I said the other day, and like I said the day before, one of my objectives here is to pull people back to the center. You know, moderation is the key to success in life. So whatever we're talking about, okay, moderation is the key to success. Okay, everything in moderation. So I'm not losing the Disney of it all, but I'm just trying to take the time and the platform to start to open up dialogue outside of the parks. Now, I got a list of Disney stuff to talk about, all right? Plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok, all right? So 253-263. I've got the new phone system, so light up the phones. I want to see how good this thing works. I love this phone system, but you got to spend to utilize it. So it's up. It's running. It's on my iPad. I'm excited. Give me a call. 253-263-1540. You can listen to these radio broadcasts on replay on YouTube, and you can listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. I am consolidating them with the Under the Influence podcast feed. Now, I think ultimately it's all going to wind up, evolving brand-wise. I'm not going to worry about that right now. There's always going to be one person that says, you should change your name to Disney Parks Live sometimes. More importantly, I just want to make it all accessible instead of having a Disney Parks Live podcast over here and a thing over there. So if you want to listen to the audio replays, go to Under the Influence, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But if you just go to my YouTube, you can catch this as well. And we're live over there as well. All right? 253-263-1540. When I was a kid, every year around this time, we would be heading to Disney World. I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and we would typically drive. We would load up the car. My dad would drive maybe 12 hours or so. I think we would get to about South Carolina, and it was like a Comfort Inn on the side of the road, and there was a buffet right next to it that I remember distinctly because they had quail. And as a kid, I was like, whoa, there's quail at the buffet? Anyway, we would take about 2 days to get from the Philly suburbs down to Orlando to go to Disney World, okay? It was a tradition. I mean, I'm a Disney kid, which is why it cracks me up when people say that, whatever. So anyway, I'll never forget, MGM Studios had just opened. Okay, I remember having the yellow MGM poncho, and there was an attraction called Superstar Television. And at the time, my parents were wearing these sweatshirts. Okay, and they weren't hoodies; they were just sweatshirts. I think they were red and black or red and gray, and they said FBI's Most Wanted. I don't know where they got them. Northampton and House. And I went to Council Rock when there was one. So they're wearing these FBI Most Wanted shirts. And we're in line for Superstar Television. This is where the Frozen Sing-Along currently resides. Now, if you know anything about that area, you're kind of on a slope, right? And they would load you in, and you would stand in that loading area, and they would pick different people from the crowd to be cast as different roles in the TV productions. Then you went inside to the soundstage, and they recreated scenes from different shows, and then they recreated television intros. I recall being Gilligan on the Gilligan's Island scene during that. But the story I want to tell, and this is one of my fondest memories, my parents get plucked out of the audience, and I think it was like an Empty Nest style sitcom. It might have even been Empty Nest, whatever it is. So my parents play a couple that is invited to a dinner party. And they're obviously dressed in these America's Most Wanted shirts. I don't know where they got them. Knowing my mom, she got them at Strawbridge's. If you're an 80s kid, you remember Strawbridge's? So anyway, it's a little sitcom scene. And they do the dinner party. And the husband and the couple leave. The husband and wife see them off, the two couples. And as soon as they leave, there's a knock at the door. And the FBI shows up. And the punchline is, those new neighbors of yours, those are FBI's Most Wanted. And my parents, you all know how the weather is in Florida, right? You go to Disney any time of year. I tell people it's shorts, it's t-shirt weather. You always need one good sweatshirt, right? You don't need more than one. Really don't, right? So they wore the sweatshirt back the next day to the park because you only really need one good sweatshirt in Orlando on a vacation. So they got called up again. So my parents were in the same skit on Superstar TV back to back. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, you know, because I was a little kid. I mean, I thought it was like, I knew it wasn't actually television, but I thought it was just as good. Like, I remember going to the Indiana Jones stunt show and thinking, and going up and asking him afterwards, did you play Indiana Jones in the movie? I mean, I was a kid, you know? And these are the memories that I have. These are the memories that I have that create that generational bond with the brand. You know, I remember the Backlot tour. I remember wanting desperately to fly on the bee, on the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids bee. Remember the bee in front of the blue screen? I so wanted to fly on the bee, you know? And so I have all these memories, and I often stop to think about them. And it is that, for me at least, it is that sort of introduction and to the Parks brand as a whole, and those sort of memories, those annual trips down to Disney World, knowing where we were stopping on the way, the anticipation to stop by south of the border, even though south of the border sells nothing but tchotchkes and dreck, you know, but seeing the billboards for Pedro. You remember Pedro? And just waiting for the next billboard in anticipation. They spent more money on the south of the border billboards, okay? They spent more money on the south of the border billboards than they did building all of the south of the border. It's like one giant shopping center, all right? And it was abysmal, but it was all part of the experience. It was all, and you knew, even though you were nowhere near Disney World, you knew when you saw those signs for Pedro, you were close. You were closer to Disney World at that point than you were to Pennsylvania, than I was to Bucks County. When I saw the signs for Pedro, I knew we were in an earshot, even though we were way, way far away, you know? And I just think these are the memories that made me so passionate about the brand. And it was only through the acquisitions of things like the Muppets and Lucasfilm that love for the brand grew, because my love for those other properties already existed. And then you bring them under one roof, you know? So I think about these things, and I think about the way that the Muppets and Star Wars impacted my childhood. And I just don't know if the people operating the company now understand the intrinsic value in introducing the brand to the kids at that age, you know, the right way. And the value in sort of building that generational chain of memories is how I'll phrase it. You know, because that becomes the thing then you want to share with your kids, and you want to share with your kids' kids. What I fear now, as they start to dismantle the brand, is that those experiences will become few and far between. One, because of affordability. Two, because of a lack of original storytelling. Okay. And three, because they really take no risks. You know, Walt took tons of risks. That's how you got some of the most fantastic animated features you have ever seen, because Walt took risk. Look, Frozen's cool, Moana's cool, but you got to stop. You know, we don't need Toy Story 12. You know, the reason that Pixar was so special when it came on the scene was because it was stuff you had never seen before. I'm now hearing that the former CEO of EA Sports, what's his name, Andrew something or other, is now in contention. I think he's from EA. Is now in contention for the CEO spot. So I decided to look up this guy. This guy is responsible for the introduction to microtransactions. Okay? If you think that the solution to the Disney company's problems are bringing in a guy who wants to further gamify the experiences, that is, let me tell you, that is doubling down on everything that you are doing wrong. That is the complete opposite direction you need to be going. The last thing we need is somebody like that coming in and going, I can turn everything into a cost center. You want to book a dining reservation right now? Jump to the front of the line, an extra $9.99 ahead. I don't want to see that. We talk about perceived value a lot, right? What you have to do as a brand is you have to start reinstilling those little pieces of value throughout the experience, whether we're talking about the parks itself or whether we're talking about an online user experience in Disney Plus or whether we're just talking about the brand as a whole, right? Because the brand is accessible through a variety of different mediums. But I'm lost. I'm lost how they don't understand what they have. Here's the thing. If you really, in this world, if you really don't know what you're doing, just ask. Michael Eisner's around, just ask. I said the same thing about Frank Oz yesterday. You don't know what you're doing with the Muppets, just ask. I don't understand why you can't. You're making enough money, Bob. I don't know why you can't humble yourself to get some advisors around you. I know you had Staggs advising you at one point, but you're the same Nudnik that got rid of Tom Staggs. Tom Staggs was fired. Okay, he took the fall for Shanghai. Tom Staggs should have not taken the fall for Shanghai. Nobody should have taken the fall for Shanghai. The only reason Tom Staggs was ousted was because it looked good to have somebody take the blame for Bob Iger for Shanghai. Kevin Mayer built Disney Plus. The backbone for Disney Plus came from BAM. BAM was acquired by Disney, and Mayer's the one that built out Disney Plus using BAM. It's wild to me. The road signs, you want to talk about the road signs. If you drive around Disney property, there is such an inconsistency in the road signs. All the road signs were purple for the longest time. Iconic road signs. Then they started making some of them blue. Then they started making some of them LED screens or LCD screens. Technically, I would think that they're probably liquid crystal displays, but I digress. Okay. Actually, they're not liquid crystal displays. Okay, they're videos. Anyway, don't worry about how the screens are built. But they're blue. So I got purple, I got blue, and then I got video screens that are blue for now. They messed up the theming of the roads. They messed up the theming of the roads. What is going on? Give me a call. I got the new phone system today. I cannot wait for these phones to start lighting up. 253-263-1540. Give me a call. 253-263-1540. How do you mess up the roads? How do you mess up the roads? You know, in Italian, we say stungats. Okay? We also say bafangul. What's the matter with you? They need to bring in Staggs and Mayer. The only solution beyond a hostile acquisition of the company that I can see for the future is Staggs and Mayer. I'm sorry that you let them go, Bob. Okay, but reach into your pocket and acquire Candle Media. Okay, you'll get the benefit of owning Hello Sunshine and all of that, okay, and put Staggs and Mayer at the top. You have Staggs to run everything on the creative, and you can have Mayer run the business side, okay? Or vice versa. I don't know. I don't really care. But Staggs and Mayer are the answers to your problems. Dana Walden comes from Fox. Dana Walden is not the answer to your problems unless all you care about is Hollywood, and Hollywood is dying. The former CEO of EA is not the answer to your problems. Josh D'Amaro is not the answer to your problems. It's absurd to me. It's absurd to me. You know, when the average consumer, the average Disney consumer, has a better understanding of the brand than the leadership itself. Maybe it's time to put together a think tank, okay, of some of your biggest supporters. All right? You don't even have to pay these people. They'll do it for a churro. All right? For real. Maybe it's time to start listening. The same way we're talking about the state of the world and the way we need to start listening to each other. I'm just saying, I understand, you got to make money, you're a big corporation and all that, but you're destroying your own brand. And it's sad to see from a multitude of perspectives. It's sad to see from a business perspective. It's sad to see from the perspective of somebody that loves and adores all things Disney. Two 263-263-1540. Let's light up those phones. I love this new phone system because when you're on hold, instead of just being on hold with nothing, you can actually listen to the broadcast at the same time. Okay, so I'm very excited for that. I said that the earnings call is tomorrow, so we'll see. I think the stock right now is sitting at about 100, which is good, better than it's been. But let's see. Let's see if it can break through. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with that. We talked about Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm saying that Rey is their only real, what was the phrase? Their most valuable cinematic asset is Rey, and she will likely make an appearance in various upcoming movies. Now, in other Disney news, 6 months before they were scheduled to go to trial in a $300 million pay equity class action lawsuit, they have come to a deal. All right? Initiated by female staffers in 2019, the class action lawsuit stated that there was a pay disparity between male and female employees. And I guess that the case encapsulated 12,000 female employees. So $300 million pay equity class action lawsuit Disney has settled 6 months ahead of time. Now, tomorrow's the earnings call. I don't know how that affects the earnings call. What do I look like, Larry Kudlow? I mean, that's the worst possible name I could have come up with. But I don't know. I don't know how that affects the earnings call. But listen, pay your people right. Stop paying your executives so much damn money. They're not even earning it. Y'all just put a gift shop in Disneyland that looks like a shed from Lowe's. For real. Okay? All right? In other theme park news, and this just proves how great competition is, all right, and why Universal is not a threat to Disney, all right, but actually a very healthy push, because I saw footage of this dragon flying over Epic. I mean, this is like nuts. They're going to have a full-on dragon flying over the park. Now, I don't know how often. I don't know to what extent. But I'm like, why do we not have X-Wings and TIE Fighters? I know they did it when the land opened for the media. But this is the kind of stuff. This is why when people say, do you think that Epic is going to be bad for Disney? No, I think it's going to be great for Disney. It's not going to hurt Disney's business because Disney's got so much demand. Disney's doing enough to hurt itself. We talk about this all the time these days. That's why some people think I hate Disney. I love Disney. But this kind of stuff coming out of Epic is what's going to force the next round of leadership at Disney to up their game exponentially. Because if we got dragons flying around over Epic, then we sure as hell can have TIE Fighters and X-Wings flying over Galaxy's Edge every single day. Every single day. And they don't have to go super fast. Couple pew-pews and backstage and go back around again. You know what I mean? It's not hard to do. You just got to want to do it. That'll wind up popping up in Tokyo before it ever pops up here, and they barely have a Star Wars presence in Tokyo. But they have the desire, you see? All right, let's go to the phones. 504, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hello.
Hey, now.
Hey, Royce.
Ellis.
Yeah.
You called me.
I know. I was saying I'm excited about Rey coming up in the new Star Wars films.
You're literally the only person. I think this announcement's for you. I think all of the data that Lucasfilm pulled pertaining to Rey is just from you. Did you fill out a couple surveys?
Wait, how is it just for me?
I have a feeling it's all you. You're all the Rey data. That's the only logical explanation for this outcome.
Wait, I'm on the way data?
You must be. Who else is convincing these people that Rey is the answer to their problems?
Oh.
Have you filled out any surveys recently?
No.
Any phone calls from a woman by the name of Kathleen?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So maybe. Hello?
Yeah.
You still there?
I haven't filled out any,
Did you ever? Ellis.
Mm-hmm.
Rey is like the worst new Star Wars character next to Kylo Ren, okay? Did
no,
you have a question?
she is not.
Yes, she is. Did you have a question for me?
Yeah, but she's not the worst character.
No, yes, she is. Okay, you're right. She's the second. You're right. I'll correct myself. Kylo Ren is the worst new character.
Mm-hmm.
Rey is the second worst.
But why is she coming? Well, she's a great character.
I love how your voice goes up. It's like, goes, oh, and then comes back down again. Go on.
I'm saying she is a great character.
I also like the chuckle to himself, like, I'm doing really good. What was your question, Ellis?
Rey is a great Star Wars character.
No, she's not. What was your question?
That was my question.
That wasn't a question. That's a statement. And I wasn't even talking about Rey. I mean, I was, but that's not the point. What's your question?
Well, I'm excited that she's in the upcoming Star Wars movies.
Oh, great. Listen, it's all for you, buddy. It's all for you. You better go watch all of it and buy all the merch, okay, because they're relying on you, and so is my stock.
You're relying on me?
Yeah, because you're the only person that's going to watch all this Rey crap.
Hey, it's not Rey crap.
Well, first of all, keep your ear away from the phone. Second of all, I don't know what that squealing was, but I hope you're okay.
I'm okay.
All right, good. I spoke to your mother
yesterday.
It's
not Rey crap.
Listen to me. I spoke to your mother yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Leave her alone.
Yes.
Leave her alone.
What?
Leave her alone.
What did I do?
Huh?
What did I do?
Just leave her alone. Let her live.
I said,
let the woman live.
Okay.
Let her live.
All right.
All right? We talk about you.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't think you do.
But it's not Rey.
Oh, we're right back to Rey. That's all you got. One track mind, bro.
It is not Rey crap. It's Rey.
First of all, watch your mouth.
It's cool.
Watch your language.
Okay.
Yeah, don't say Rey ever again. No, listen, Ellis, there's a whole history of Star Wars characters that they could at least point to. If they really feel like nostalgia is the key to the success of the brand, then they have endless amounts of characters. Endless.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yoda, Ellis, Yoda's 900 years old in Empire Strikes Back. There are 899 years of stories that could be told about Yoda leading up to Empire Strikes Back if nostalgia is all that they think that they have.
Right.
Tell me about the guy that installed the garbage smashers on the detention level. I want to know all about his story. Where did he go to school? How did he get his engineering degree? I don't even care if it's a reality show at that point. Make it like a Dirty Jobs on the Death Star. What? Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
The little toaster droid, the little mouse droid that runs around on the Death Star. Give me a spin-off series.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh. Well, what about bringing Darth Maul back?
I love Darth Maul. I'm all for Darth Maul.
Mm-hmm.
They have brought Darth Maul back. Darth Maul's a fantastic character. He predates the Disney acquisition. Darth Maul's fantastic. I got no issue with Darth Maul. By the way, Darth Maul will destroy Rey. Darth Maul will destroy Rey.
He won't.
Yes, he would. What world are you living in?
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Ray would destroy Darth Maul.
Ray would not destroy Darth Maul. He's got 2 blades on his lightsaber. All she's got is a ball bearing for a droid.
You meant she has BB-8.
That's what I just said. What do you think the BB stands for? Ball bearing.
Ball bearing?
Why are you laughing? That's true.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my God.
I don't even know what I'm... So you're calling BB-8 a ball bearing?
Yeah. And Darth Maul would destroy Ray. I don't know why that's a conversation.
Oh, it's not.
Ellis, do you remember when you called me one day and asked me who was faster, Superman or Usain Bolt?
I do remember that.
Yeah, and what did you say?
Yeah.
You said Usain Bolt.
I said Usain Bolt.
And what did I say?
Mm-hmm. Superman.
And I maintained Superman will beat Usain Bolt in a race.
Mm-hmm.
And you said no, Usain Bolt's the fastest man alive. And I said what?
Yeah.
What was my response?
Superman's the fastest man alive.
My response was Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Are we done?
Yes.
All right, and what are we going to do today? What did we learn on this call?
Right.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We learned nothing, right?
Right.
All right, let's review, okay? One by one.
Okay.
All right, one by one. Number one, we learned we're going to leave your mom alone. Leave her alone, right? Right?
Right.
All right. Number two, we learned that Rey is one of the worst Star Wars characters ever, right?
She is not.
No, correct.
Okay.
All right. Finally, you agree that Rey is a horrible character. Right? And number three,
no, I did not agree.
You just said
to that.
yes. You just agreed with me.
No, I said no.
You just said yes.
She's
That's
not.
an affirmation. Look up the word yes. No. You just agreed that she's a horrible character.
No.
Ellis, you just agreed she's a horrible character. You just said yes. That's what
she
yes
is
means.
Not
yes is an affirmation. If you would have said no, different story.
Well, I'm going to reverse it back and say no.
You can't do that. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. These are my rules. Anyway, So number two, we agree. Rey is one of the worst Star Wars characters ever. And number three, Darth Maul would obliterate her in a lightsaber battle, correct? Yes. Mm-hmm. Correct. See, and you agree Darth Maul would destroy Rey in a lightsaber battle. So you know the truth. So I feel victorious because I finally got you to admit that Rey is a terrible character and Darth Maul would destroy her. So thank you, Ellis, for seeing it my way. And we should probably end it right there, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel defeated? All right, Ellis, it was good to talk to you. Ay, ay, ay. He cracks me up. I almost dropped the wrong line. That was Ellis, everybody. 253-263-1540. Eventually, he just says yes. It doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Ellis does make his own segments. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal on TikTok. That kind of support's going to let me know to keep doing this. You know, it's a completely different beast to do what we're doing here. But I've stated for a few times today, and probably since we started doing this as of Monday, my approach and my logic behind doing this. All right. Give me a call, though. I love this phone system, though. I mean, I can hold this in the palm of my hand and take your calls. 253-263-1540. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, it's Keith and Nadine.
Keith and Nadine, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. Very nice to hear from you.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Why are they keep doing all these characters from Disney and kids grew up with it? Why do they keep on making these dumb horror flicks?
Well, those aren't being made by Disney. You talking about like the Winnie the Pooh stuff?
Yeah, but now they want to do Bambi. They want to do Pinocchio. They want to do them all like that.
Right. Well, because those characters
it don't make sense. It don't make sense. It's like you're making these kids feel like, oh, they're evil. They're not good.
Right, but those aren't Disney's characters, and those aren't Disney's versions of the characters, right? A lot of those characters you're talking about were not created by Walt Disney, okay? Walt Disney created his own version
right,
of the characters.
It does say that, but what these kids are thinking.
Well, that's why they're making these movies, man. The whole idea is marketing, right? Like, hey, if I can get just 1% of the people that are aware of Winnie the Pooh to go see this horror movie, then I can see profit. You know what I mean? There's mathematics involved in it because there's pre-awareness. So all they're really trying to do is just glom off of the name. You know, it's not appealing to children. It's not being marketed to children. Most kids aren't going to want to watch it, you know.
No, but it makes it look like if they go to Disney World, they see them, they're going like, oh man, that ain't right.
Yeah, but you know what? That's where I think parenting kicks in. I think that's where it's incumbent upon a parent to explain the difference. And honestly, if you are in that situation with a little one, I can't even imagine how much you'd be exposing them to the Winnie the Pooh murder movie or whatever it's called versus the actual Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
So I would just
Blood and Honey 1, 2, and 3, and they keep on making sequels out of it. It's like, why? Why bring all these good characters into horror?
It's somebody's out there trying to make money. It's no different than when you see like a direct-to-video movie. Like, let's say, I'll use Titanic as an example. You know, you have something like of that level, and then there's a direct-to-DVD or something movie back in the day that would be like kind of Titanic adjacent because they knew that they could make money off of it. Or if like Jurassic World comes out, and then there's a dinosaur movie. You know what I mean? It's the whole King Kong Mighty Joe Young.
Why would they want to put Ray into another character when she shouldn't even be in that character?
Well, now I have whiplash because we just changed the conversation. However,
I don't
know why they think Ray is of value. My only theory there is Ellis filled out more than one survey. That's it. That's the only thing.
Ellis fought.
because how if listen, they said. First of all, you got to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, okay? Dave Filoni should be running Lucasfilm. Yeah. Thank you. He's a Pittsburgh boy. He has my support. Dave Filoni was taught by George Lucas. He understands Star Wars. Filoni should be running the brand. With that being said, if your statement is that Star Wars relies on nostalgia and we're all out of nostalgia, why in the world do you think the answer to your problems is a character that has zero nostalgia?
True.
Right?
Right. You're right.
What else is on your mind?
I just wonder because, I haven't seen on TikTok lately, and I just wonder what happened. You're like there, and then poof, you went gone.
Yeah, well, you know what?
We haven't seen you in a while.
I take what I do very seriously, even though it's a lot of fun. And
I know you do.
I think I get caught up in overthinking, and I sometimes have to go into like, I don't know if I would call it like pre-production mode, okay? But sometimes I got to get out of production mode and move into like prep or pre-production mode, and then you go from pre-production to prep, and then you're back into production. And I know that's kind of hard to explain to most folks, but that's kind of the way that I'm wired. So what happens is...
Well, it's stressing. It's a lot of stress, too. Yeah, it's a lot of stress.
Even setting up equipment, do you know what I mean? Like, it takes time, and it takes time for me to figure something out. And then I order something, and then it comes in, and it's not the thing that I ordered. Things just take time. I don't have somebody, I don't have a live-in intern. I don't have my Darren from Seinfeld. I should, okay? Could you imagine if Ellis was my intern? Nothing would get done.
Ellis is a character himself.
Oh my God! I'd be like, Ellis, could you do me a favor? Could you just go to the corner and get me some Starbucks? You can walk. He'd come back. He'd be like, I went to Walmart. Look at all these Ray toys I got. I'd be like, this is why they think Ray is valuable.
Remember, he rated you 99% out of 100.
Listen. He told me yesterday, I don't know if you caught yesterday's show, and you can listen to these on replay on YouTube and podcasted where Kenzie and I do the podcast, Under the Influence. Yesterday, Ellis tells me that he was 10 years old when The Wizard of Oz came out. I don't even need a calculator to tell you that's not accurate. I texted his mom.
Oh, wow.
I go, do you know your son? I said, do you know what your son said? And she goes, oh my God, what did he do now? And before I could even say anything, she goes on a whole rant about how he's micromanaging her. Eventually, I made my point. I said, yeah, he said he was 10 years old when The Wizard of Oz came out. And she said, no, he wasn't. I said, Stephanie, no shit. Like really, Stephanie? You really thought that I was asking for clarification? So her and I, we just crack each other up all day long. Like, I love Ellis's family. Ellis, if you're listening, I mean, your mom and Peter are just amazing. And honestly, I could.
Well, we all love them. We all love them, care about them. I mean,
they're the kind of
people. He's just a character himself.
You just want to sit there and just sit at a bar with them and just chop it up. You could sit at a bar with those two and just chop it up all day long. And you might hear a whole bunch of really off-kilter stuff, but a lot of it will be coming from me too. Mm-hmm. And that's why we get along. Because Peter will say some stuff. And like, even when I was live with them in the park, and Peter will say, and I'm like, that's hilarious, but I'm live. Please don't say that. They're just,
yeah.
They're my kind of people. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, that's it, buddy. I'll keep in touch, and you should probably get another Christmas card in the mail from us.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, so listen, why I have you on the phone? Keith and Nadine send me a Christmas card every year to my P.O. box. Now, my P.O. box is on the other side of town. When I got that P.O. box, I lived right down the street from it. There's a UPS store right next to me here, but they're miserable. So I refuse to pay for a P.O. box there because I don't like the people. I like the people at the other place, so I, for 3 years, have been using them. So a year ago, when I moved to the other side of town, I kept my P.O. box, and I just drive over there because I like them. Had a whole conversation with the owner yesterday. He wants to sponsor us. He's like, listen, he's like, you have all these people that come to Disney. I will go pick up their packages and help them get their lightsabers home so they don't have to take them on the airplane. We will provide a white glove service for your audience so the next time they're in Disney World and they need help getting all their merch home, they don't have to struggle. I was like, that's so cool. Like, what a great... So we're going to work together, create some content together. But just funny that you brought that up. And he's like, listen, how you let them know that we're here. I'm like, my P.O. box address has been on my Instagram for 3 years. He was blown away. So you brought that up and you reminded me. So always trying new things. I love the idea of working with local business. I love the idea of being able to extend something like that to the audience. And look, Keith, Nadine, we'll be back in the parks. I promise. I'm just trying to figure it all out. Okay?
Hey, take your time. Take your time. Because there's time mentally it can get stressful by doing all that stuff you do and everything. And I mean, even when Ponko left, it took it out of you.
It did. Yeah.
And it took it out of me too. But I'm just saying, it's stressful. I mean, I appreciate what you do. Of course I do. We do. We appreciate it a lot. But there's times that you got to take a break. I mean, get your mind at ease.
And I'm not one of these people that knows how to make a grand announcement. I don't know how to go like, hey, so I'm, because I don't even know that I'm doing it. I just kind of go with the flow, like I go where I feel the energy taking me. And I'm just not one of these people that goes out of their way to go, listen, everybody, here's a quick update. I'll be MIA for the foreseeable future. I just don't know how to do that. I'm not that much of a narcissist, okay? So I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. And I also think, who cares? Like, in other words, the whole idea, the app shows you I'm live. So if I'm not live, in my mind, that tells you the answer. I'm not dead. I'm just not live. But for some folks, that's not.
Why a lot of people say when you're in the park, when people say you're in the park and they're on TikTok, they'll say, "Well, this is recorded live." No, this is live. It's not recorded.
Here's what happened, right? So the hurricane was coming. I'm walking around Disney Springs, and people are saying, "Get out of there! You should be home. There's a hurricane coming." I'm like, "The hurricane's coming tomorrow. What do you want me to do? Sit at home and stare out the window, waiting for it, see if it's coming down the street, like it's Mr. Softy? No." So I'm running around, all right? And then, it's like, well, why aren't you in the park? And then, you go into the park and it just, so it's like you can't win. When you're in the park, why are you there? When you're not there, why aren't you there? So I was like, you know what? I got a whole bunch of stuff that I got to eBay. I've been sitting on merch for my old business forever. So right after the hurricane, I said, F it. I'm going to worry about me. And I just took care of myself, and I put whatever I had on eBay and Poshmark. I got a whole bunch of Disney merch on Poshmark. Keith and Nadine, great to talk to you. I'm going to keep moving here. And that's really it. There was no mystery, and I don't really know how to be more communicative about that stuff, other than in a format like this. 786, you're on the air.
Hey, Royce, it's Danny again. How are you?
Good, Danny. How are you? Nice to hear from you.
Good. I'm doing well, thank you. So I saw you were talking about Star Wars this morning. And that's always my biggest pet peeve with Disney, believe it or not. Out of all the many things that I could find wrong, the whole Star Wars situation is one that I still scratch my head about literally every single day. Then I saw you were talking about it, so I was like, I have thoughts.
I'm listening. What do you think?
Lots of thoughts. Well, I mean, I don't want to offend Ellis and his love for Rey, but I can't imagine any real Star Wars fan thinking that Rey is the character to pin the franchise on.
Well, the question is, are any real Star Wars fans running the company? I mean, Filoni's a Star Wars fan, but he's not making the decisions.
Yeah. I agree with you that Kathleen Kennedy has to go. She is literally the worst thing that has happened to that franchise.
And it's all George Lucas's fault. Go on.
Yeah. I don't think that Lucas perhaps anticipated the level of incompetence that was going to decimate Star Wars as an IP. I'm sure he thought, okay, they're going to take it in whatever direction. I don't think he anticipated this. To me, this was just like a hatchet job. It's almost as if, no, they're not fans of Star Wars. They're the complete opposite. And they wanted to just destroy the legacy of the IP completely.
Well, he gave them scripts
of everything from before.
They were handed scripts from George Lucas, and they opted to throw them out. And then they brought in Michael Arndt, who wrote Little Miss Sunshine. Okay. And then they threw his scripts out, and they brought in J.J. Abrams, who is Hollywood's equivalent to a Xerox copy machine.
I think really one of the biggest issues that I have with the way that they handled those last three films, which I just refuse to acknowledge them other than for the purposes of this discussion, is that they had so much canon source material that they could have derived stories from if they didn't want to go with whatever Lucas supplied them. That would have made sense and would not have been a complete hatchet job on what they did to Luke Skywalker's character.
But it's interesting
still to this day I get heated and I have no words.
Have you read Bob Iger's book?
Words for it. I have not read Bob Iger's book. I guess I should.
So in Bob Iger's book, he states that when George Lucas, I think George Lucas approached him, because I believe the reason George Lucas took the deal was because the capital gains laws were changing, so he had to take the deal. Otherwise, he would have taken a huge hit. So I think time was against him. But Iger states in his book that Lucas said he wanted the Marvel deal. And Bob's response was, you don't have the stories. You don't have the archive of stories that Marvel has. Now, you might have characters. So Bob said that to him, still gave him pretty close. I think, and somebody can correct me, I think Marvel was sold for $4.5 billion to Disney. And I think Lucasfilm was sold for $4.05 billion to Disney. So he didn't quite get the Marvel deal. But the fact that Bob makes the comment that you don't have the stories tells me that he knew what he was buying was inefficient, or at least he believed it to be inefficient, you know? And if you really don't think that you have the stories, then why are you buying it, right? Because I understand why you're buying Marvel for that price if it's got the stories. But if by your own admission, they don't have the stories, then why did you buy it? Just for the characters? Because if you just bought it for the characters, you're not building stories around them either. So you bought the name Star Wars, is what you paid $4 billion for. And to your point, now you're just watering it down because you don't know what you bought. The reason, Danny, that Galaxy's Edge looks the way it is because Disney didn't want to be tied to the old trilogy. They wanted to make it something that would appeal to fans of all ages. Complete misfire in many respects, because there are legacy planets that they could have leaned on, like Tatooine. They could have made that Mos Eisley. It pretty much is Mos Eisley anyway, Batuu, right? And nobody would have cared. Now, they did a great job capturing the essence of it, but the fact that they wouldn't even lean on the legacy of the brand when they built Galaxy's Edge tells you all you need to know. And I'm just shocked that they think Rey is the answer to their problems. And there's a comment on YouTube from Cameron saying the only reason they think Rey is their most valuable character is because they killed off all the legacy characters. So make a bunch of prequels. Give me Watto's backstory. Tell me about Watto's early days of stealing hubcaps. That's got to be a great miniseries. I'm done. Go ahead, Danny.
You made a good point when you were referring to Marvel. And I've heard that argument before, meaning that, you know, Marvel has this kind of built-in archive where they can just take stories, you know, for as long as we can imagine. However, if you look at a lot of what's coming out of Marvel, a lot of it is not necessarily what true comic fans know about those characters.
Right.
They've taken many liberties in their storytelling,
sure,
which is fine.
But you have to. I mean, Lady Death wouldn't have translated out of the gate with Infinity Wars. It just wouldn't have.
No, absolutely. I understand. I mean, I'm not a big fan of having RDJ coming back as Doctor Doom.
Right.
Just going to put it out there. I'm probably in the minority. I like him, and I love what he did with Tony Stark. I just don't want to pin the hopes and dreams of this entire franchise on one actor. I don't think that's the solution, because I think they're just trying to throw something and see what sticks and saying,
but,
you know,
yeah, but you got to remember.
I know I'm getting away from Star Wars.
No, you're good. You got to remember about the Kang Dynasty. So Jonathan Majors got fired, and I think what you would have seen was that they would have never gone down that road with RDJ had they moved forward with the Kang Dynasty and Jonathan Majors. But they fired Jonathan Majors, and then I think they panicked, you know, and this is stunt casting at its finest. The problem that I have with it, quite frankly, and I'm a capitalist, so go get your bag. Like, I'm all for it. Go get it. But to pay him that kind of money, when the Disney company can't even take care of its cast members, like you did the places they choose, and I understand it's business, but the places they choose to burn money, that kind of money could have gone towards taking care of your lowest paid cast members. It could have gone towards investing in original storytelling and propping up, you know, new young filmmakers. There's a bunch of different ways you can spend that money. Robert Downey Jr. doesn't need more money. But I'm not knocking the guy for earning a living. I just don't see the value in it. He's aged out as well. Let's be honest. If he was a woman, he wouldn't be hired because he's too old.
Absolutely. And I do agree with something needs to happen with Marvel, because Marvel, ever since the pandemic, Marvel has kind of been on a downward slope. I don't know if it was the whole multiverse kind of thing that they dived into and it was kind of too much, or trying to expand into series on the streaming service, and then people feeling forced that if I don't watch a particular series, I'm going to lose the thread for the film.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe a little bit of all of it, and then you had the strike, and I think that also had a lot to contribute to it. My issue is, and I think it also translates into Star Wars, when you pin it on one thing, it's never going to work. I don't care how popular that actor is. I don't care what you think he's going to bring to the table. I don't think it's going to work. If the material, if the script is not there, if the story's not there, if you don't have supporting characters that people are going to be invested in moving forward, I don't care if you bring him back because you like him for all the films that he was involved in.
Right.
And again, I like him and I love the character, but it had its time and its place. And you're right. If that would be a woman, you wouldn't be clamoring to bring her back. I mean,
and not at that rate. You'd be like, you're paying us. Listen.
No, I think at this point they wouldn't bring Scarlett Johansson back. I know they're talking about bringing Elizabeth Olsen, but I can understand because that character has
but that took years.
Infinite amount.
That took years to get to the point.
Yes,
they had to see. They had to see the numbers. They had to be led to that. Okay, they had to be led to doing that with Scarlet Witch. If you remember, okay, the whole debacle that went down with Scarlett Johansson and Bob Chapek over moving Black Widow to streaming. Okay, that was a nightmare. That was a botched scenario, and it turns out we talked about this yesterday. Chapek had nothing to do with it. Chapek took the fall publicly, but Bob Iger signed off on that press release. So all the time we thought it was Chapek and it was Bob Iger. And he was using Chapek as a smokescreen. But the way they treated her, okay, that was so, first of all, it was uncouth. All right. And it was just bad optics. But from a business perspective, you can't do that, right? You remember what happened with Warner Brothers when they tried to move all those movies to the streaming service during the pandemic? People went nuts. Like, you can't restructure deals with people either. Now you got me on a tangent. Because the thing that drives me crazy about the whole streaming market is how much money they burn, because it's like an arms race. But it's an arms race to the bottom. You know, what you said about Marvel is so true. It was all about the continuity, right? You would see the post-credit scenes, and it would be an ad for the next movie. Every movie was an ad for the next movie. And it was cool. It was fun. It was exciting. It was different. But then it got to the point you couldn't keep up. And then they added the Disney Plus series, and I didn't want to keep up. And then on top of that, and I'm just being real, way too much overt messaging across the brand. Okay? Disney as a whole, way too much overt messaging. The idea of themes, okay, are as old as time. Nobody's against having themes in storytelling, okay? It's as old as time. But overt messaging is damaging. People don't want to be preached to. Really good writers bake the theme into the story and don't slap the audience across the face with it to the point that they're breaking the wall.
And it's in every series. It's not, it feels so out of place. Like they're shoving it in there no matter what. I mean, I watched The Acolyte.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know why I watched it. I thought it was terrible for many reasons.
What do you think the best Star Wars movie is that Disney has put out?
Did they put out Rogue One?
They did.
Okay, so then that would be it.
The prequel that nobody needed or thought they needed is one of the best. I would say that and Solo are the best two Star Wars movies they put out. Solo is completely underrated.
Oh, hands down.
Solo shows you what you should be doing.
And Rogue One is top 5 for me of all Star Wars.
Man, when Vader comes in at the end on Rogue One and you get the full-on like video game Vader, come on. What a way to end a movie. I mean, first of all, you have to be a really good filmmaker to make a movie that everybody already knows the end to. Like, you have to be a very, very good filmmaker. And there was tons of reshoots on that movie too. So it's a patchwork process, filmmaking. But I knew you were going to say one of those two. Those two, in my opinion, are the best ones.
Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One's awesome.
But here's the problem. You had Rogue One as a a standard, so to speak. And then you give me these other 3 films.
Yeah, but look at the directors.
Which,
that's the problem. Rogue One was Gareth Edwards. Okay, Ron Howard picked up the slack on Solo. So you have some really good directors there. Rian Johnson, I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
That was horrible. J.J. Abrams is just, listen, you only hire J.J. Abrams.
Slightly better.
No, he's not. You only hire J.J. Abrams, okay, so that you can look at everybody else at the meeting when you're all sitting around the conference table and you can go, at least you know who'll make the days. Like, at least you know with JJ, he's not going to come up short and over budget. Like, JJ's a TV guy, right? I don't think people really understand how the TV business works. TV is a business of making your days, right? So when you produce television and you have a prep schedule and then you move from prep into production, like I kind of mentioned earlier, once that train leaves the station, there's no going back. So if a director is hired on a TV series and doesn't make his days by the end of the week, they have to solve that problem. And they have a couple different ways you can do it. You can work it out creatively, okay, depending on what you really missed. Or you can push it over to the next week. But you got to move on to the next episode. You can't go, it's not a movie, right? You can't go, hey, we need 2 more days this week to finish, right? You can't push it like a feature film schedule because TV production is week to week. So a good director makes their days. A bad director doesn't get hired again because he doesn't make his days. Right? J.J. Abrams makes his days. That's why he gets hired. Point blank, period. He makes his days.
They made poor decisions.
Hollywood makes poor decisions, but Hollywood's dying. Hollywood's dying for a variety of reasons. The greed, the lack of creativity, the internet, okay? I think what we saw these last few weeks, dare I mention the election, but I think what we really saw was that the power of new media, and it's not even new anymore, but I think we saw that legacy media is dead, and people are hip to the idea that if I see a soundbite, that there's something before it and there's something after it and you're leaving it off, and that there's value in long-form content. I did a radio show back in the day, Danny, before podcasting was a word. I did a live radio show, very similar kind of setup to what I'm doing now. It was all audio. It was live on a Shoutcast server on an underground radio network called Rant Radio. And I would go live, take calls just like this. I had a lot more hardware for those phone calls. I had 5 phone lines trunked together, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, the tech geek takes over sometimes. But I did this thing for 2 years, every Sunday for 2 hours, okay? And we built it up. We won a nationwide contest. I've told this story. And we got to do one day in the FM studios where Adam Carolla had his show back in the day. And then they flipped pop. And that was the end of the talk radio era. Then the term podcasting came out, and I was confused because it was a new term and I didn't understand it. And I didn't understand it for months until I finally realized that podcasting is just pre-recorded. Right? What we have done is just continually reinvented the wheel. That's what we do in pop culture, right? But I love talk radio. I'm a talk radio guy. And what you see in this feed timeline-based social media economy that we live in, that it's bite-sized content, and you scroll. So there's no opportunity for discourse. And there's certainly no back and forth. Most people leave comments on a video to hear themselves talk.
Which is what TikTok is, without the live component.
I'm not supposed to say this, but I hate TikTok. I'm going to tell you to hit the gift goal and show your support because I need it. But I was reading this morning. Okay, first of all, see, everything kind of weaves together. This fight coming up on Friday with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. I was reading up on it. I was watching clips and stuff. I didn't know Jake Paul was a Disney kid. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, it all ties together. That's what I'm saying. So I was looking at because I'm hyped up for it, and I was watching a clip of Mike Tyson saying how his kids don't think he's anybody, but after Friday night, his kids are going to see that their dad is somebody special. And I was like, oh, wow. Talk about some growth as a human being. Okay, fine. But one of the comments said, I hope he smashes Disney, or I hope he knocks him out. I go, Disney? So then I Google it. Yeah, Jake Paul actually started on Vine, went from Vine to a Disney show, got fired from the Disney show, and decided to go to YouTube and focus on building his own brand. And what's fascinating to me about that isn't just the legacy media side of it, but it's the platform hopping, you know? So I don't know if TikTok will be around much longer. I really don't know. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. But what I'm learning every day that goes by here is that the platform is becoming less and less the priority. And it really does go back to the creator. And I didn't feel that way. I didn't understand that. But people want to hear truth, you know, and people want to be heard themselves. So that's what we're doing here. And to that point, Danny, the phone number to call, 253-263-1540. I'm all about talking about Disney, but I'll talk about anything. That's why I want to do this. We'll get back to the parks. We'll do more gaming. We'll do the Legos. I got a whole bunch of stuff. I got animatronic stuff to do with y'all. All these things. But I just wanted to start doing more long-form conversation. I used to do these on Instagram back in the day, Danny. Once in every blue moon, I would do one of these. You know, so it's a return to something I did before. But what I recognize now more than ever, coming out of last week, is that there aren't enough long-form conversations being had. You know, I've stopped. I'll make a short-form video. Even the other day, this gentleman, Paul, who watches, sent me a bunch of these cashews on TikTok. Normally, you make a 30-second video. I said, F it. I'm going to make a 7-minute video because I don't feel like cutting all this out. There's things in here I like, and those that want to sit down and take the time to watch it, they'll enjoy it. I could have just done the 30-second version, but I think that's the problem. You consume something and you move on, and you don't even know if what you consumed is actually accurate.
Keep on doing what you're doing. I think this is going to work. And it's something that you can give yourself outside of TikTok and any other platform and carve a place for yourself outside of it.
I appreciate it. Look, I'm doing it at a loss, but I've been here before. And as an entrepreneur, I recognize it. I had something very good going. And to dismantle it a little bit, to grow it, that's what an entrepreneur does, is you pivot and you adjust. And if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you know, there is a ceiling there. You know, you will plateau. I've had great success running around the parks for the last 3.5+ years. Okay. And with your all's support, I've taken it pretty much to the top as far as the TikTok of it all is concerned. But I'm ready to break out of that bubble, and I'm ready to start having larger and more valuable conversations beyond the TikTok sphere. So I do appreciate the support. Please keep calling in. I love talking to you. And also, you're local. There's a really clean connection.
All right. Thanks a lot, Royce.
Bye, Danny. She's so sweet. You know what's funny is I don't think Danny started watching until like June. Because I can see viewer stats and all that. Thank you, Kat. So give me a call. I want to talk to you. We got plenty of time. 253-263-1540. But yeah, I had no idea that Jake Paul was on a Disney show. But he was on Vine, and he had millions of followers, and they pulled the plug on the platform. And that made me think of the TikTok of it all. And like, what happens? You know, you spend years building this thing up, but what happens if they do pull the plug? It all goes away. And if you haven't set yourself up for longevity, then you're just going to fall by the wayside. And I think a lot of that comes with engagement and really getting people to know you. It's very easy, I think anyway, to run around a theme park and host the rides. I don't know how you do that wrong. I know some people think that whatever. I don't know how you do that wrong. It's called, you know, being a professional. But I just feel like there's more purpose in all of this than that. That's all. Very simple equation. Really not that complex at all. 253-263-1540. I was really hoping Ellis's mom would call in because I told her to. So I'm excited for the Tyson fight. I also have to bring this back up. This is all news stuff, right? I got a bunch of headlines to touch on. This is less Disney at the moment, but I mentioned yesterday People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, and they said it was going to be Benny Blanco, who's dating Selena Gomez, another Disney kid. And I was like, really? Really? But you know what? It turns out it's John Krasinski. All right, fine by me. Fine by me. But I was like, Benny Blanco, come on, man. Really? Like, that's wild to me. Really? The guy, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but I mean, like, the guy smiles. He looks like he's doing a chiclet ad. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, Krasinski's cool. I remember when The Office first came out, I was still working at NBC. I remember seeing all those guys go from being nobodies to somebodies. So that's very cool. So good for Krasinski. And by the way, to go from sitcom actor to filmmaker, that's pretty cool. That's not easy to do. And his wife is extremely talented. She's also the star of one of my favorite movies of all time, The Devil Wears Prada, which is getting a sequel, mind you. But I love The Devil Wears Prada. Love, love, love The Devil Wears Prada. If anybody works in entertainment or, event planning or anything in that world, I'm sure that movie resonates with you. It does. He smiles. I'm like, what, he looks like. Remember Chuli's gum from Clerks? When Benny Blanco smiles, it's like a Chuli's gum ad, okay? All right, I digress. Give me a call, 253-263-1540. We'll put this up wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's take a moment and talk about how you can support. You can support by knocking out the gift goal. I'm less focused on subscribers on TikTok. I'm more focused on subscribers at TVRemix.com, which has 3.5 years of live replays on it. There are some that are free to watch. There's tons that are behind the paywall. Think of it as my Patreon, TVRemix.com. Now, there's also films on there that I've made. There is other content from other content creators on there. Lots of recognizable faces. There's a couple series on there, mini-series, some celebrity interviews and stuff like that. So TVRemix.com is something that I created way back in the day with my arcade business. And it's kind of grown and evolved here. So instead of subscribing on TikTok, if you're thinking about showing your support through a sub, you can go to TVRemix.com. There's plenty of stuff to watch for free, so I encourage you to go check it out. You can always go to my website, Joe Coconut merch, Joe Coconut beanies, and lots of other stuff, stocking stuffers for the holidays, lots of deals on the website. And if you want to book a trip, the travel form is on the website. We can help you book your trip. If you want to get on the email distribution for this Tokyo trip we're going to plan, you can go fill out that form as well. Thank you all for the support on TikTok. I appreciate you. 253-263-1540. Disney Parks Live is the YouTube name, but the podcast name is actually Under the Influence, okay? So wherever you listen to your podcasts, Under the Influence. And at some point, like I said, we'll figure out the branding, but I had to get through kind of all of this to get to that. And we've improved upon the phone line. So far, so good. So give me a call. I'm very happy with the way the phones are working today. The one thing I have to bring up, and I'm sorry, I'm not sorry at all actually, but is I'm sitting here reading all these tweets from Elon Musk, and I'm like, yo, I don't want my government to be turned into a social media feed, you know? I'm not comfortable with that, but to that extent, okay, they announced this government efficiency agency. And I think everybody agrees that government efficiency is a much needed thing. I don't know if they'll be actually successful in doing anything. I hope they are, because I'm all for efficiency in the government. So irrespective of how you feel about things, we should hope for the best in that endeavor. But I have to tell you, that was the moment I broke down and bought Dogecoin, because I was like, all right, now wait a second. So you're going to have this guy out here every day talking about Doge, meaning the Department of Government Efficiencies? I'm like, that's a free ad for Dogecoin every day. So I went out and bought Dogecoin. I figured, why not? Why not? Right? You know, I'm hoping they succeed, you know, but I'll tell you right now, I mean, I've never bought crypto in my life. I wish I got into like at least Ethereum back in the day, because I was aware of it. But yeah, yesterday was the day that I broke down and bought some crypto, because I was like, they're going to be out there talking about Doge every day. But I'm going to at least make some money off of this nonsense. Words do mean nothing. I agree. But can I say the phone number again? Yeah, absolutely. It's up on YouTube as well. 253-263-1540. Hey, listen, I'm all about, you want to make some money here, all right? That goes back to being a capitalist. So I don't like the idea of him being out there undermining the president-elect. You know, I don't like the idea of Elon Musk having his hands in our government at all. All right? And I don't like the circus that's about to unfold with all of his tweets. But I do like the idea of government efficiency. I don't have much expectation, but I put a little bit of money where my mouth is in the hopes that maybe something good comes of it. But again, grab a pen, 253-263-1540. We'll take your calls. So I don't know how you feel about that. Part of it that rubs me the wrong way is you're not even, like, you have citizenship in 3 countries, okay? So as an American, I'm sorry, but I don't even know if you have true allegiance to this nation. So I'm weary of anybody at that level. Do you know what I mean? Like, country first, right? I don't really know if I want somebody like that. In fact, I know that I don't want somebody like that with his hands in our government. We'll see what happens. I mean, listen, you can't wish for these folks to fail, okay? At least when it comes to doing the things that we want, all right? I'd rather have to say, hey, I've been proven wrong, than say I told you so, right? Like, at the end of the day, I'd rather be pleasantly surprised. I don't expect it, but I'd rather be pleasantly surprised than get to go around and do a victory lap because things are a mess, you know? And I think that's what going back to the middle is, right? I think at the end of the day, that is what moderation really is. A czar for everything. I don't get it. I don't know. 253-263-1540. 570, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, Royce, it's Kat.
How are you?
Good. How are you? I just wanted to call and show you my support and say that I love listening to and that I'm always walking away learning something new.
Well, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a question?
No, not really.
Surely you
like
have something to ask.
Well, I don't know.
How long have you been watching?
Probably about 2 years now.
Wow,
I started when you were doing the park. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just kind of enjoy watching you do the Legos and all that stuff. But like I said, I like listening to you because I always learn something new. You're chock full of great information.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, it's funny. I can picture your profile, and you're one of these people that probably didn't talk in the early days, right? I feel like you only became vocal over
I was
summer.
a silent watcher.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm fascinated by that process, and I think oftentimes what happens is the chat moves so fast, or there's a few folks that occupy all of the oxygen, and it makes it hard to kind of find your way in. Another reason I love this format.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And I'm always scared to say something, you know, because, like, people get so offended rather quickly that you don't know what you're going to say if it's going to offend somebody.
Oh, no, I get it. Believe me, like I said, I didn't even talk in the early days for those reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I appreciate the support so much. I really do. It's, you know, it's something I've been wanting to do what we're doing right now for months. So this isn't just like, you know, a whim. This is thought out, you know. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I hope you have a great day.
You too. So nice to talk to you. All right, here's what I'm about to do. I'm running right behind the camera. It's like a TV studio in here, and it's hot, and those lights are hot, okay? So I had to go crank the air. Give me a call. I love that. Thank you so much for calling in and just lending your support. If you have anything you want to talk about, I'm happy to entertain it. 253-263-1540. Good morning, Greg. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for that. We spoke to Ellis. We spoke to Keith and Nadine. It's been a full morning. All right, here we go. 732, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Who's this?
This is Maria. I'm calling from New Jersey.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling.
I'm really enjoying your show. It's very informative. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Well, thank you for that.
I was just curious on what your thoughts or opinions were on what is now known as Disney Springs. When I first started going to Disney, it was known as Pleasure Island. It was back in 1989, and it's changed names a few times, and the look has changed. I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Downtown Disney and Pleasure Island. I never had the good fortune of exploring Disney Quest. It's evolved. I understand the idea of getting rid of Pleasure Island, but I think it's one of those decisions that was short-sighted as well. You know, the one thing that Walt Disney World lacks currently is a nightlife. And that was a really great place for adults to hang out. And at this moment, the parks aren't even open late. So that's not even really an alternative. Like, there's no option. So, I mean, I like it.
Yeah, I remember they used to do the New Year's thing at 11 o'clock every night, and that was, like, so much fun.
Yeah, so, I mean, I like Springs. I like what they've done with it. But I think in scrapping Pleasure Island, while they may have solved some problems with the riffraff, I like that. I liked having those clubs. I like that jazz club on Pleasure Island. I like the idea of having some nightlife on property. That is the one thing that is truly lacking at Disney World right now. Because by like 11 o'clock at night, it's over. And nobody...
Yeah, I like the comedy club that they had.
Nobody's going to that dance club on the boardwalk. I mean, that dance club, they should turn that into a mouse gear or something. That dance club is just a big box, just a big empty there's nothing going on in that dance club. But yeah, Pleasure Island was jumping. Yeah. I mean, that was the coolest thing, is you paid admission to Pleasure Island, and then you could just bounce between clubs all night long.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I don't think you'll ever see anything like that come back. You know, what I wish they would do, though, I really wish that they would actually make a Skyliner connection to Springs. I've heard rumblings of it.
That would be great.
That would be fantastic. Probably be really good for business, too. You know. But the thing...
I mean, I like Disney Springs, but there's not as much fun as there was, I think, in the past. There's like a lot of shopping, and the food is great in a lot of the places, but I miss the fun part of it.
Right. So the thing for me is like what? Like, unless you have the drone show... All right. And if that's not there, unless you're going to the movies, what is there to do outside of dinner at night? Right. You walk around Springs, you catch some fantastic live music. But yeah, no, Pleasure Island was awesome. I mean, Pleasure Island was so much fun. Yeah. I love that. Great question. You know, and the thing is, you know, they got space, right? It's not like they're short on space. So when they make those changes, while I understand why they wanted to get rid of Pleasure Island, I often ask myself, you have all this land. Why do you, with anything that they choose to do, why do you constantly rework things? In other words, you have the land. You could experiment over here before wiping something else out completely. It's just the same thing we're talking about with Rivers of America.
I'm sure there's a lot of fun things they could put in there that would work, but they just haven't gone down that road.
Well, I want Disney Quest back. Like, why did you wipe out Disney Quest? You could have built us a better version of that and then gotten rid of it. Like, that was silly. Yeah. Why is there not a Flynn's arcade?
You said, there's so much potential.
Yeah, but why is there not a Flynn's arcade in Disney Springs? A Tron-themed arcade in Disney Springs with ticket redemption and vintage arcade games. You can have a bar in there. I called them. When I still had an arcade business, I called the guys that do all of the deals for Springs because I had investors at the time. So it was like, talk to me, you know, maybe I can salvage my business. They're like, yeah, we have no interest in bringing that kind of business into the Springs. I don't get it. I mean, I understand. Now, the arcade games in the resorts are there to babysit the kids. They don't really care about them, right? I used to fix those games. Everything, if you could fix it with black duct tape, the boss was happy. So those are an amenity. But to actually have some sort of like proper entertainment district, I think would be gangbusters. Like a real comedy club, but you can't have a real comedy club in Disney. You can't even have them turn on the audio on the TV for the Super Bowl at the bar in Disney. They won't let you do that. So they're not going to put a comedy club in there. I'm often shocked at some of the songs that they let these singers perform in Springs. You know, it's just gotten too safe. You know, can you imagine a comedy club in Disney? They'd give you a list of things you can't say. There'd be nothing. I mean, which boggles the mind, because then you have Deadpool over there in California Adventure saying all sorts of nonsense. Where in Jersey are you?
I remember they had the Whose Line Is It Anyway kind of thing that they had there when I had gone back in the early 90s, and it was so much fun.
In Springs?
In Pleasure Island, it was like a comedy club, and they did like a whole like performance. It was just like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, improv
kind of
comedy
thing. I don't know if that was the name of it, but that was like so much fun.
I don't remember that. You said you're in Jersey. Where in
Jersey?
I did
that a couple of years. Near New Brunswick.
Oh, okay.
Central.
So, I was talking about Atlantic City the other day. There's a casino in Atlantic City that they turn into a giant arcade and water park, and I'm like, it's a ghost town. Like, you go in there, it's a ghost town. I don't know how they're making money, right? I have no idea how they're making money. It's a ghost town, but it is a casino. So there's hotel rooms above it, but everything that's at the casino level.
Is that the Showboat?
Yeah, it was the Showboat, right?
Right.
Is
right.
it the Showboat? Yeah. It's the Showboat, right?
Yeah, Showboat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it's all arcades. You know, like, it's just a big arcade resort. I don't know how that functions in Atlantic City as a business, but could you imagine something like that near the theme parks? Whether Universal took it up or Disney took it up, but like, you know, I mean, that's like Dave and Buster's 10X. I think that would be, aside from the upkeep, I think that would be massive on property. Because what do you do at night?
Mm-hmm.
If you're asking people to spend all of this money to stay on property at Disney World, you have to give them more to do at night. You're going to spend all of this money and then you close the parks early. Now, granted, depending on where you're staying, you have late nights in the parks. But I just feel like, and we talk about this all the time, they just keep taking. They keep taking away from the things that made it so special and from the value of it all. But they keep raising the prices.
Yeah. True.
I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. 253-263-1540. I just want to make sure that I don't drop the wrong call, because then I have to reconnect to the phone system, and I can't do that while we stream. So, Adventurers Club. I don't know. I don't know. I do not know. Give me a call. Thank you for the support on YouTube. It is getting hot in the studio. I cranked the air, but I'm waiting for it. We are live on YouTube, Disney Parks Live. We'll podcast this out the same place that the Sunday podcast is. That's Under the Influence, wherever you listen to your podcast. Again, helping me knock out that gift goal is going to show me that you like what we're doing and support what we're doing. We'll get back into the parks sooner than you think, I promise. Okay, but I like the idea of talking to y'all. Let's go to 609. I think that's Jersey. 609, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hi, this is Andrew Raphael.
How are you, Andrew?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I say, I watch your live streams all the time, and I love what you do. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
I just want to say about the whole Rivers of America, about that. I've been hearing that there's been a lot of pushback from it, and that Disney may have some problems and that they may not actually be able to go through with it.
Yeah, so I heard that they got pushed back on the permitting, but I don't know what the latest is on that.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of videos from That Park Place and from WDW Pro, and they've been doing a whole lot of the Google mapping, and based on where the location is or where they want to do it, it seems impossible for the project to actually happen.
Well, the one thing I can tell you about Disney is they do not do their homework. They, oh God, you want me to tell you a story that I'm not supposed to tell?
Sure, go right ahead. You brought it up.
Harmonious I'm going to tell it in a way that I won't get in trouble. Harmonious got scrapped because they didn't plan ahead. Harmonious would have still been there today if they had done their homework up front. So what probably happened was they announced Big Thunder Mountain, Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. If you remember, that was the announcement. The announcement was not Rivers of America. It was Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. And I heard a rumbling that there was issues with the land back there. Not the land that they were earmarked for villains, but the rest of the land. Okay? But the other conflicting report I heard was that, we talked about this yesterday, that operationally they want to get rid of the rivers because it's just a headache for operations. My response is fire the operations people and bring in new operations people. Okay? That's not how this works. But I don't think, I'd like to say that I don't think it's going to happen the way that they've designed it, because again, they don't do their homework up front. So whether it's a lack of understanding of what the guests want or a lack of understanding of the fallout from just trying to touch that land, I think something's going to wind up thwarting the plan that they announced. But in typical Disney fashion, they don't do their homework. So again, much like Harmonious, they announced this expansion, and I think there's a lot of running around behind the scenes to figure out what to do. And I don't know how much of it is based off of the permitting side and how much of it's based off of public response. If I had to guess, they could care less about the public response because the public cries about everything Disney does, and that it's more about the permitting. But I don't understand how you run a company by sort of like shooting first and asking questions later. That's the only reason we don't have Harmonious, because nobody did the math on the show. And I can't really say much more about that, but it's like you spent all this time and energy to create something. You think you would have done your homework. I mean, look at the Star Wars hotel. You didn't do the market research to determine the fact that nobody wanted that? Maybe I'm being hopeful.
You could blame Kathleen Kennedy.
For what, the Star Wars hotel?
Yeah. And not just that, but she based that and Galaxy's Edge on the sequel trilogy that not a whole lot of people, including myself, like.
Look, I'm the first one to blame Kathleen Kennedy when appropriate. I don't think you can blame her for the Star Wars hotel. I think that's above her pay grade. I think that's like the phone rings and they're like, Kathleen, we're building a Star Wars hotel. She doesn't really get a say in that. Now, the direction of the storytelling, the movies, the land, maybe not so much the land, the storytelling for sure. I think the decision for Galaxy's Edge was ultimately made at the Iger level. I think Imagineering probably presented him with a variety of solutions. Listen, if you go to the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, there's a clip of Iger meeting with the Imagineers, and they showed him the Cars Land expansion for California Adventure. Okay. Now there's a move, right? When you're the boss, there's a move, right? And the move is you have to have a critique. You have to have a note. You can't just look at something that's perfect and tell the Imagineers it's perfect. Because if you tell them that, then what are you there for? So in the video, they show it to Iger. And there's like trees all over the Cars Land landscape. And Iger's response is, I don't know if these trees are 1-to-1, but it seems to me that we might want to put a little more greenery in here because it's going to be really bright with the sun bouncing off these rocks. I'm like, that is the most corporate response. You know, at first glance, you're like, oh, wow, that's really good. And you're like, no, that's all smoke and mirrors, Bob. It's all bullshit. Like obviously when they build it, they're going to resolve that. Like that's like it. And if that's the guy that's going, no, build it this way. No, make it Moana instead. It explains everything. And that article that came out a couple months ago, I think it was New York Times, basically pointed to the fact that Iger is micromanaging Imagineering at that level. So these decisions are coming from a guy that thinks that way. A few more trees. Yeah, Bob, because the scale model had all the trees 1-to-1. Spoken like a true weatherman. I can see there's some space here where these trees are leaving an opening for a cold front coming in from the east, and that's the convention center. So that's a high wind coming in from the east here. I can't call him what I want to call him. I used to love Bob Iger. But like, yeah. So
Yeah, I did too.
you know, you stick around long enough, you see yourself to become the villain. Wasn't that a Spider-Man line?
No, it's Batman.
Whatever.
No, I agree. I think Iger's been CEO for too long, and I think we're starting to see that.
It was Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Thank
Yep,
you.
that's right.
That's a great movie, by the way. I watched it on the airplane back from Tokyo because there was nothing else to watch. Man, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it is. Nothing could ever beat Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
No, he had that all figured out. I don't like the way he handled Bane. I think Bane was completely underserved in Dark Knight Rises. If you know anything about Bane's origin story, Bane's a fantastic character. But yeah, no, Nolan knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what's going to happen. I was griping yesterday about this Superman movie that's coming out. You know, it's amazing. DC can't get their act together, you know. Marvel has seen success to the point that they're now failing, and DC can't even succeed. But I think this Superman movie is going to tank. I don't know how you feel about that, but I cannot imagine this doing good.
Well, I'm not really much of a Superman fan to really give an opinion on it. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that James Gunn is a talented director. We've seen that with Guardians of the Galaxy. But I just don't know how he's going to do with DC.
Well, I think he's a talented director, but I think he's an abysmal screenwriter. You know, I talk about this all the time. I've been saying this for years. The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was written by Nicole Perlman. It was in the Marvel Development Program. He plucked the script out of development. That script was in development for like a decade. You know, people don't remember that the Guardians of the Galaxy were obscure characters. So he took the script, he rewrote it. I think she has a producer credit, but he did a pass on it, and he gets all the credit for it. So most people think James Gunn wrote Guardians of the Galaxy. He wrote the second one and the third one. Look at the quality drop in the story from the first to the second. The second one's all frat humor, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
James Gunn. And again, and this is my biggest James Gunn gripe, besides his personal transgressions, because I know people that know him, and I do not like the man. I think he should be in jail. Okay, but he made Scrappy Doo a villain. Who does that? Scrappy Doo is not a villain.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. He did write the first two live action Scooby-Doo movies.
The only reason James Gunn got hired for the first Guardians of the Galaxy is because he had a web series with a raccoon in it. That's my Pennsylvania accent.
Wow.
Okay. I forget the name of it. Okay. But it was a puppet. It was a puppet raccoon. Raccoon. I can't help it. Anyway, so his agents begged for him to get in the room. Begged for him to get in the room. He pounded his agents to get him in the room. He was not on that list. Now, good for him, but at least give credit to the woman who got you there, because Nicole Perlman is the brains behind the Guardians of the Galaxy. And also, by the way, that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie is A New Hope. Did you ever notice that?
You know, it's been a while since I watched the first Guardians, but looking back, if I really think about it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a ragtag crew that's being assembled. It's A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, so is Force Awakens.
Oh,
But I digress.
Yeah. I saw that the first time I saw Force Awakens. It was almost a carbon copy of A New Hope.
Are you a big Star Wars guy?
Oh yeah, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan.
So it's poetry, right?
And it really, yeah, the way George explains it.
It's supposed to rhyme.
I could go down a whole. Yeah.
Go for it, man. I don't talk to you about Star Wars all day long.
Oh yeah, I can too. And looking back at a few of the projects that Disney has made, it really has strained away from what George made it to be. And I just have no faith in Disney at this point because they've messed it up so much. I don't know how you could recover.
What was so crazy to me about Solo is there was so much outrage for taking the risk in casting somebody for Han Solo, because obviously it wasn't going to be Harrison Ford playing a young Han Solo, obviously. Okay? They took so much heat for that risk, but it's so good. And when you watch the movie, you don't even care that it's not Harrison Ford. Like, it's Han Solo. Like, you buy into it. So they took the risk.
Yeah.
They got the backlash. But they ultimately succeeded. The movie wasn't a financial success, but it was critically a success. That should be the roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
That proves to you that you can go beyond it. You know, one of the biggest debates with the Indiana Jones series, which is also owned by Lucasfilm, for those who don't know, is that you can't go beyond Harrison Ford. I mean, They've done it in the past. There was a whole young Indiana Jones series. What was that, Sean Patrick Flannery? Then you have River Phoenix in Last Crusade. So it's been done. Those are the risks.
You know,
the Solo movie was awesome. It deserves a sequel.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, speaking of Indiana Jones, that young indie series that you just brought up, it was about to get canceled after its first season, and then Iger, who was, I guess, head management at ABC at the time, fought tooth and nail for the studio to renew it for a second season, and George was very thankful for it. And I think that's part of what led up to them teaming up together for George to sell Lucasfilm to Disney.
Well, yes. So you've read both books. You've read Keys to the Kingdom and Ride of a Lifetime, huh?
Yeah.
So, yeah, because I mean, it's the history, the relationship between George Lucas and Disney is as old as time, and I mean, it goes back to you know, Captain EO and Star Tours, and it's really quite fascinating. And if you've read Keys to the Kingdom, I think Eisner paid Lucas $1 million a year for the rights to put the Star Wars characters in the park. Can you imagine? Totally took advantage of that.
I wish I could.
Yeah. So I think Iger kind of came along and was sort of like the salvation there, and was the one that kind of course corrected a little bit. I don't know what the nature of the relationship is between Eisner and Lucas, but yeah, there's a bond there that goes back, because I think that Lucas was being taken advantage of for quite some time, and Iger was like, played the good cop, you know, even though it all turns out that he's the bad cop, but I think he good copped him. It's kind of fascinating to look back. I mean, you know, the relationship between Lucasfilm and Disney is organic, you know? I mean, it's Disneyland and Lucasfilm. I mean, that relationship it makes sense, right? But then when they actually owned the property, things went south. They did so much better when it was just a relationship. Now that they own it, it's like everything else. They just water it down and they squander it. You know, not to go on a complete tangent, but because I was reading something that Robert Zemeckis was talking about, a Roger Rabbit sequel. There's a script and he would love to do it, but Disney won't do it because, you know, it's with Jessica Rabbit and all of that. It's too provocative. You know, and he talked about how they put her in a trench coat. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Yeah, keep going.
No, I was going to say.
I was going to say I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, no, they put her in a trench coat, right? They're playing it safe. But like the reason I bring all that up is to say you have this IP. Either use it correctly or don't use it at all. Why are you taking things like that and reworking them to be safe? Don't use them. Get rid of them. You know, at one point, Disney owned the Power Rangers, and when they couldn't figure out what to do with them, they sold them. So if you don't know what to do with Roger Rabbit, sell it. You're trying to make quick money anyway, sell it. If you don't know what to do with the Muppets, sell them. I'm sure the Jim Henson Company would love to buy the Muppets back.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
I think part of the problem is... Oh, yeah.
No,
yeah,
please.
keep going.
No, please. I'm just trying to keep the ball in the air. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, part of it is that they just lack creative imagination. I mean, giving Disney Star Wars should have been a slam dunk for them. I mean, they got plenty of source material to go from, whether it's comics or novels, especially the Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. I mean, they had everything going for them. And just somehow they just really dropped the ball on it. You know, and like first by scrapping George's original draft for the sequel trilogy. He was originally going to have Darth Maul be the main villain and have his apprentice, and then Luke was going to rebuild the Jedi Order, and Leia was going to be Supreme Chancellor. I mean, there was a lot of really, like, a lot of stuff that really would have resonated with Star Wars fans because that's George's Star Wars. That's real Star Wars. But the only real Star Wars, the best example that I could think of that Disney really did a great job on, and I really wish that they capitalized on, was Rogue One.
Yeah,
because that felt like a real war film.
Well, that's what I was saying to Danny earlier. I mean, think about that. Not only did it feel like a real war film, you already know the outcome of that movie. To make a movie like that, and to maintain that sort of tension and the stakes at that level, and to create all of that when you already know how it's going to end, that is not easy. That is skill. Yeah. Nobody thought you needed a prequel to literally a prequel to A New Hope that literally takes you up to the door opening on the ship. Like, that's how, it's not a prequel in the Phantom Menace sense. I mean, it is like a prologue, not even a prequel. But all that suspense.
That ending was perfect.
Oh my gosh. I said it earlier to Danny on the phone. When Vader comes through, I mean, that's like Sony PlayStation Vader. I was like, oh my gosh. I've been waiting my whole life to see Vader like that.
And they know they can't screw up Vader because they've messed up on all the other characters. But the moment they screw up Vader, they're screwed.
But they're making an announcement saying that they don't even think, despite the fact that they recognize that Star Wars is rooted in nostalgia, they don't even think that they have anything left. They feel as though they have depleted the brand. That is wild to me. And look, I love Star Wars. Okay, I love Star Wars. So it's like a conversation we're having in the grand scheme of things. I don't lose any sleep over what Disney's done to Star Wars. But creatively speaking, there's so much, and that's why I keep saying Dave Filoni knows what to do. Look at Mando. Mando, the first season of Mando was awesome. I mean, it started to fall off. By the time we got to that frog episode, I was a little worried, okay? But like, it can be done right. It can be done right.
Yeah, and at the end of the second season of Mandalorian with Luke Skywalker, which I almost cried with that. That was so perfect.
We all did.
That was the Luke that we should have gotten. And the way that it was ending and the way it was setting up Book of Boba Fett, I mean, it was brilliant. I was so excited. For the first time, I had been optimistic about Disney's handling of Star Wars, and then I was completely disappointed.
You know what? I didn't even get all the way down that rabbit hole. I heard something about, I don't know if it was in which series. I heard he goes back into the Sarlacc pit. I don't know. No. There's so much to do. Like, there's so much to touch on. Like, let's give me a Dagobah series. Like, talk to me about Dagobah. What's going on in Dagobah? Give me a spinoff about the Minox. Come on. You got tons of stuff. Give me a whole Jawa series. Like, I'm not saying that I really want these things because these are all like watered down things that you would be doing with the brand. I'm just saying it's better than Rey.
Oh yeah. But someone brought up something very clever though, that Disney, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, they created a character that will outlive Rey, and that's Grogu.
Right, but Grogu's derivative of Yoda, so it's not even that original. I mean, it's Gizmo. Grogu is Gizmo. That's it. Grogu is Gizmo.
Right.
That's all they did. They took they took a Mogwai, and they said, put the Mogwai model into the computer, and reskin it with Yoda. That's Grogu. I love Grogu, but real talk, he's a Mogwai. Nothing's original.
Yeah.
I got to keep moving. It was great to talk to you. We got lots of phone callers in the queue. Thank you so much. And I am going to not mess up my one job here. 845, you're on the air. Who's
Hello.
This?
It's Brian. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to point out that Stellan Skarsgård's monologue as Luthen Rael in Andor is by far the single best thing that we have ever gotten from Disney Star Wars after the acquisition. If they would just lean into that level of storytelling and just continue on that path in whatever direction they would like to go on, I think they would take the IP further into the future. I think that they focus too much on younger audiences, and to say it kindly, I think they insult the intelligence of their audiences. I mean, kids were watching these movies in the 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s and so on, and were able to take complex stories and be able to figure out the depths of the characters.
Well,
so just take that monologue, Stellan Skarsgård's monologue at the top when he's like, what have you sacrificed? And just run with that. That's all they have to do.
Somebody's got to send me a link.
I continue on that path.
I have to see it. I have not seen anything from Andor. Somebody please send me that link on Instagram. I'll check it out after the show because now I'm intrigued. But you're right. I mean, look, everybody's talking down to their audience these days. Everybody. The news media talks down to the audience. TV and film talks down the kids. Jim Henson and Walt Disney never spoke down to kids. They spoke to kids like they were adults.
Exactly. And it's one of the reasons why I never liked Mando. Everything's the exposition just in your face. Here's the story, and there's no real character arc and development where you're through dialogue, not through just blatant in your face, like here's the story, but really grasping that. I think there's aspects of that in Mando, but I think that the IP was just so popular that, in my opinion, it was just rushed forward. And then the result of that is that you have episodes that just are the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's a little adventure, and we're done.
Like a little
I guess
side
you could say
quest,
Japanese Western in space type thing, But the direction that they took Andor in, they should just continue on through the entire IP. And they could create new characters and just move in that direction instead of what they've been going for. Because everything else, in my opinion, has been a disaster. I actually remember when I left the theaters after episode 7, I was with my wife, my mother-in-law, and another person, and they were all giddy coming out of the movie theater. And they were like, what'd you guys think? And they're like, oh, it's great. And they turned to me and they're like, Brian, what'd you think? I said, that was hands down the worst Star Wars thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's essentially A New Hope. And I'm glad that opinion has resonated and caught traction over the years, to where 7, 8, and 9 is just the same stories, except it's a girl, it's a different comedic relief. It's essentially, they took the formula.
But they're supposed to
play
be
it safe.
They're supposed to
Instead
be
of driving it forward.
But there's supposed to be a certain level of rhyming in Star Wars. Okay? So it is fair that there is some correlation between A New Hope and Force Awakens. The same way that there is some with Phantom Menace. Star Wars is supposed to rhyme. So I get that. But I don't understand.
True, but what they did with 7, 8, and 9, because the story of Star Wars is the rise, fall, and redemption of Anakin Skywalker.
Correct.
And by what they did with 7, 8, and 9, they just ruined it. They ruined the entire because the movie's not really it's not really about Luke Skywalker. It's about a man who rises from nothing, hits his peak, has a downfall, turns to evil, and then finds redemption through his son.
Yeah.
And by bringing back Palpatine, the whole thing, 79 is just terrible. There are some great moments in it. It's entertaining. Don't get me wrong. But as far as like a story arc and the development of I think even George had said that himself, and I know his ex-wife had some comments on the sequels as well. But again, in the previous guy was talking about Rogue One. If they just took that direction, how they told it, they need to bring those, I think, the brothers back. They need to bring them back, and they need to put them in a higher position in the development at Lucasfilms, and continue with how they told the story of Andor, and move that into different directions. Can you imagine if we had Boba Fett that was told
who did
in the
Andor?
style, in the depth of Andor? It would have been amazing. People would have loved it. Instead, we got this.
Who are the brothers?
Big, the guys who created Andor also were the guys for Rogue One.
Oh, okay, because
Hold on.
It was the guys that worked with Gareth. I was gonna say I knew it wasn't the Russo brothers. I can't place it. But listen, you said a couple things.
I think they did Jason Bourne as well, right? Did they do Jason Bourne as well?
If somebody can look it up real quick, I got to touch on two things you said. First off, let's go back to George Lucas's ex-wife Marcia. You wouldn't have Star Wars if it wasn't for that woman. The first cut for Star Wars was abysmal. The first cut for Star Wars was trash. She went in and recut the heck out of that movie. George Lucas's ex-wife saved Star Wars. It's another example of a woman not getting her due and propping up a man. But she literally made that movie. Like, more real talk.
Well, hey, behind every great man is a better woman.
There always is. Listen, women bring us into this world, okay? That's just the way it works. The other thing I want to touch on is the technology behind Mando. Because when Lucas first wanted to do a Star Wars TV series back in the 90s, it was too expensive. And what most people don't know, and this is just fun trivia, this is the tech geek in me again, is that Favreau started developing technology on the Jungle Book live-action movie using Epic's Real Engine. Okay, Epic, yes, the same Epic that has Fortnite. Okay, using Epic's Unreal Engine. And then when they got to the Lion King live-action, they had taken that technology further. And it was only with the technology from the live-action Lion King feature that Jon Favreau developed, in conjunction with Epic's Unreal Engine, that they were able to create the volume in Manhattan Beach, okay, that is the digital set for Mando. So it's kind of fascinating.
And it's great. In that aspect, and if the only good thing that comes out of Mandalorian besides a ton of merchandise,
it's the only good thing that comes out of the live-action Lion King movie.
if that set and that backdrop is the sole good thing that comes out of Mandalorian, then like I tip my hat, right? I don't think anybody can deny that, and that's great for being able to move the stories forward. Yeah. But and by the way, it was the Gilroy brothers. It was Tony Gilroy.
Oh yeah, okay, the Gilroys.
They need a position and a much better. They need Kathleen Kennedy, if she's still around after however many years moving forward, needs to bring the Gilroys back, and they need to develop the stories moving forward, because the depth of each of the characters, even the small characters in Andor, is phenomenal.
I'll have
if
to
anybody's
check out this
never
monologue.
seen Andor, you need to go see Andor, and you need to see Skarsgård monologue. I think it's halfway through the season. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there's
what did you think about
Obi-Wan? He essentially has a spy inside of it. What's that?
What did you think about Obi-Wan?
Terrible. I thought it was terrible.
It had its moments. I mean, I just liked seeing Ewan.
It had its nostalgic moments. Right. That's what it had. As far as the storytelling and the development and what they did to Obi-Wan, it's like, you know, the channel like There Will Be Blood. It's like, what did you do to my boy? You know, what have they done? What have I done to my son? It's like,
you know what I never understood?
Terrible.
See, this is
just like And Ewan McGregor, his portrayal of a younger Obi-Wan has been phenomenal.
Hold on, you got to stop for a second because
nobody disliked his performances in the prequels. Then
you drop it too much gold.
I mean, bringing back Christian Hayden was great. He redeemed himself. I think that was fantastic. But the story and the plot line to Obi-Wan and how they made him essentially, just a washed up man. That it's like, how do we get from Obi-Wan then to Obi-Wan in the New Hope?
Listen,
it's like, come on.
Like I said, you're dropping too much gold. I got to go back. But I got to go back to something you said. But first of all, Ryan turned Luke into Obi-Wan in Last Jedi. I'm not saying he did it effectively, but it was lost on the audience what he was attempting to do. I personally didn't care for Last Jedi, but I commend the risk-taking. I think he botched it.
True.
I think he botched it. But I'm sorry, you can't bring up There Will Be Blood without me going on a There Will Be Blood rant. You can't bring up that movie. I have to go sideways for 2 seconds. Because that movie, if you see, first of all, the "Will you drink my milkshake" line, to this day, I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know. First of all, who even knew they had milkshakes back then? Okay, that was my first thought. I didn't know that, let alone bowling alleys in the house. But Paul Dano plays 2 characters in that movie. Okay, and I thought for the longest time that there was a thematic connection to that. And upon researching it, it turns out that the one actor who was supposed to, I think, play the preacher, because I think Dano was cast as the brother, he backed out at the last minute, and the director said, just play both parts. So I'm watching this whole movie, trying to wrap my head around the theme of the guy being the same, whether he's meant to literally be the same or there's just supposed to be a thematic nod. And I spent all this time watching this movie, wasting all of this energy trying to figure out the thematic connection between the 2 characters because they're played by the same actor.
Yeah.
And he just did it because he ran out of time to cast somebody.
Yeah.
What?
So to take it to weave back, how would you restructure?
I would have cast somebody in the movie
moving forward.
Oh, I'm still talking about There Will Be Blood.
No, I know. I'm weaving it back. How would you restructure? Because I feel like you kind of hit it on with the previous guy, and I'm curious as to how you think that they should restructure either the sequels moving forward or another trilogy or another set of actual films.
So first of all, you got to dial back. Less is more, right? I mean, and the same could be said for Marvel. Less is more. So I would start there. I would get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, okay, even though she says she wants to stick around for one more hit. We're all running out of time. Life is short, Kathleen, okay? You have so many good movies under your belt, sweetheart. Go to the 4 seasons, okay? Anyway, what I would do is I would put Filoni in charge. All right. And I would say we are ceasing production on everything and we are going back to the drawing board. And we are going to roadmap what the future of the galaxy looks like for the next 10 years. And then we're going to take it to the 5-year mark and we're going to create a production plan. So as things start to evolve and as we start to learn from our mistakes, 5 years to 10 years, we can pivot and adjust. But we're going to roadmap years 1 through 5 to the point of putting it into a production pipeline. We're going to have TV series that function as ancillaries to the stories. We can't reboot the Skywalker saga, but I think you can start to take that Rogue One approach. Okay, so give me the Kessel Run, right? Give me more Solo. Give me a little more backstory on the Organas if you want to. I mean, I understand the idea of focusing too much on the Skywalkers makes the universe too closed. But if you really want to leverage your legacy characters to monetize them and to play it a little bit safe, that's what I would do. I would mine them. But I would
essentially the Favreau Marvel approach.
I would. But I think Marvel's like oversaturated that. So I wouldn't necessarily copy it, but I would literally shut everything down. I mean, come on. They make a Star Wars announcement and then 3 months later it's canceled. So just stop it already. Yeah. Just take the time.
Now, would you go back in time, sideways in time, or forward in the future?
I would do 2 things. I would go, because first of all, George Lucas with the original trilogy honored the Greek method of storytelling, right? So you tell the middle, then you tell the beginning, and then you tell the end. All right. So I would probably try to figure out how to crack that, right? So I'd figure out what we're doing post-classic trilogy and figure out that forward. And look, I don't have all the answers right now. I'm just trying to answer you the best I can as a Star Wars fan. But I'd figure out what moving forward looks like, and then I'd figure out how we could supplement that with backstory. There's a lot of really great characters in the Star Wars universe that are untapped. And I would just try to figure out who they are. One character that doesn't get enough love is Darth Plagueis. Give me the Darth Plagueis lore. You could have done that with this last trilogy. Snoke was a joke.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not trying to make it rhyme.
Anything other than 789. 789 to me, it's not canon. I don't even acknowledge it.
Do you remember there was an old book back in the day? I had to rebuy it because I lost my copy of it. It was a Star Wars like encyclopedia, and it had the EU in it as well. I wish I had it up here. It would be so cool to share with y'all. If somebody reminds me next time, I'll do it. But you literally just pick up a term, open up to the term, and it gives you the canon and then the EU logic for every term. And it's like it's literally a Bible for the universe. I'm like, did anybody read that when they bought Star Wars? I'm not saying you got to read it cover to cover, but it is literally the Bible for the universe.
Now, would you advocate for bringing George back for
not at this point. No.
His direction on like certain character developments, or like I think it would be better to go back in this way, or move forward, 400 years into the future.
Well, I think we could go back in and step on Jabba's tail twice. That would be good. Like, what is George Lucas going to add to it? You know what I mean? I mean, I love George Lucas. Don't get me wrong, but at this point, no. And also, that's not a scalable, viable, long-term solution. If you got to get beyond the brand. Filoni's the answer. Filoni's the new George Lucas because George Lucas instilled everything about Star Wars into Filoni.
I would agree with you on Filoni in having Filoni and Favreau there if Tony Gilroy's there to help steer the actual like nuts and bolts of the story.
Well, I implore
everybody to go back and watch Andor again.
I'm talking about Filoni at the Kevin level. And then you bring in your talent to run the stories. I'm not telling him to micromanage all that. I'm just saying put somebody at the top that operates like Kevin does for Marvel. It's not Kathleen.
Right. So having essentially Tony being the next in line for Kathleen's.
No. Filoni. And then you hire the Gilroys.
That's what I mean. Filoni at the...
Right. And then you hire the Gilroys to go develop something.
Right.
But
I think that would be the best bet for Disney to kind of save their tail with some of the stuff that they've done with the IP.
But they could take that same approach to the Muppets. They could hire Frank Oz and say, Frank, please, let's bring in a room of writers. Let's roadmap the future of the Muppets. Now, I know exactly what Disney needs to do with the Muppets, and I've known for a long time. And I know that sounds like a lot of hot air, but it's not. And I also refuse to say it out loud. Because they don't need me. They have everything they need to do what they should be doing with the Muppets. But the Muppets is a multi-billion-dollar franchise, and Disney is dropping the ball. I could flip a switch and have the Muppets Studios up and running the way it should be. I know exactly what to do with the Muppets. It is low-hanging fruit. It is literally the epitome of printing money for the Walt Disney Company. The fact they're not doing it boggles my mind.
I wonder if there's some people in that kind of chain of command that feel that the IP and the aesthetic of actual puppetry is just so dated in time that
then sell it, get rid of it.
Doesn't
sell it back to family.
Well, that's a good point to be made. There's got to be somewhere in that pecking order that somebody just feels that nobody wants puppets, everybody wants animated series and so forth.
Yeah, but I mean, look, to bring it back to the Mando. Look, despite what they did with all that technology in the Mando, look at how much they put in the foreground, how much practical they used. I mean, even Grogu was a practical effect. So even though they were using digital sets, there are people that do understand the value of practical magic.
Right, and I feel that to your point with the Muppets, it's not that there's not an army of lighting experts and CGI experts at every level, spread across the continent let alone the world, working, on an animated film that's going to take several years. It's a practical set. It's puppets. They're there. They're sitting in storage at this point.
Sure.
Why not, bring in some writers and get that done?
By the way, since we're talking about the Muppets, this was on my list. Everything happens for a reason at the right time. The Jim Henson Company owns the lot in La Brea. And there was rumors a few weeks back. A lot of these social media influencers have no clue what they're doing. Like, I'm talking about the Disney ones right now. Like, literally, they don't, like, I saw one guy talk about how Disneyland Paris is so much healthier because all of their sodas are diet sodas. I was like, what are you talking about? Diet soda's worse for you. So don't believe everything do your homework. Even me, like, do your homework, okay? But people were up in arms because they thought that the Muppet Studios, which is not the Jim Henson Company, they are not the same, was being sold to Scientology. And all these Disney content creators are freaking out. I'm like, it's not even Disney, it's the Jim Henson Company. But anyway, they're not selling the Jim Henson lot to Scientology. How random is this? John Mayer is buying it with Mick G, of all people. The movie director, Mick G.
Now that I would not have guessed.
Like, I mean, it's cool that, it's going to be preserved, but of all the people by the way, it's a fantastic little lot. And I'm glad it's staying, and I hope they keep Kermit up there in the archway. But it is not being bought by Scientology. It is not Muppet Studios. It's the Jim Henson Production Company. And yeah, John Mayer and Mick G. Who knew? First of all, who knew either one of them had that kind of money? All right. Either that or they're not selling it for that much. I didn't see anything about a price tag. But yeah, so John Mayer, I think he said he has an emotional connection to the place because he has an office there and he records his albums. I once had a meeting there. The guy wanted to make my movie. And in typical Hollywood fashion, it turns out he wasn't interested in making a movie. He was interested in being a creep. But I'm
not surprised.
Yeah, right? It's Hollywood, right? But I had a meeting at the lot with this creep, right? And 'cause as long as you have an office, you look legit. But I did go down and meet with one of the guys on the lot that did the Transformer movies at the time. And the only reason I bring that up is because this was the early days of the Michael Bay Transformer movies. And we were just talking about creatives and storytelling. And at some point, whether you like those movies or not, they lost their way. And what they actually were smart to do is to take the TV approach to Transformers. And they hired a writer's room, right? Maybe that's what Lucasfilm should be doing. When Transformers lost their way, and you might say, well, those movies were crap anyway, but irrespective, they were successful. Even though I didn't like the fact that they didn't look like Transformers in the first films. But they assembled a writer's room. And they actually treated it like a TV production and created a Bible for the film series. Why isn't somebody doing that with Lucasfilm? I don't get it.
That's a good question.
No, instead what they're doing is...
Listen, I got to get going.
Yeah, go. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I didn't mean to hold you that long, man. But, hey, good conversationalist. Give me a call, 253-263-1540. Little delay on the phones. I just try to keep the ball in the air because we're doing radio here, folks. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal on TikTok. That's going to support what we're doing here. We'll get back in the parks, I promise. But we're doing radio, and we're going to be here probably for about another hour or so. So give me a call. I got the new phone system working. We're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. And we've talked about everything. We've got the earnings call coming out tomorrow for Disney. Disney just settled a $300 million lawsuit based on gender discrimination. I think it was something like 13,000 employees are affected by this class action lawsuit being resolved. So we talked about that. Talked about some of my childhood memories at MGM and how that sort of generational, I mean, to call it generational nostalgia is being redundant, but that kind of nostalgia is truly what makes the Disney brand so special. Those moments as a kid going to Disney every holiday season, the anticipation of arriving through the sign and pulling on property. There's just a certain, the magic is the word, right? There's a certain magic with the brand that speaks to the consumer. And I just fear that the company doesn't understand that magic, you know? And like I said, Epic Universe isn't going to hurt Disney. Disney's hurting Disney. Epic Universe is only going to challenge Disney. They got dragons flying over the theme park. It's insane what's going on over there. It's wild what's going on over there. 253-263-1540. I do love talking to y'all. I think later today we'll do a little game streaming, and then maybe tomorrow we'll get in the park. Wouldn't that be nice to run around the park all day tomorrow? And I also hope the audio levels are doing better on the YouTube side, Sarah. Yeah, that was a great conversation. I forget his name, and I kind of hung up quick. So, again, 253-263-1540. I did mention earlier about the shed. I call it a shed. But the new merchandise store that's opening up in Disneyland outside of the Haunted Mansion. There's a picture of it, and it looks like a prefabricated shed, and it doesn't have any theme. And I was being snarky about it on Twitter, but sort of just to take the air out of my own point, you know, it's like, as much as I'm being snarky about it, that is not really like something I care about. You know what I mean? I care about Rivers of America. So I admit that even in my own attempted snark, it is unproductive to have the same level of outrage with everything that Disney does. And I own that for my part. Not that I think anybody was paying attention to what I'm saying on Twitter, but, you know, it's not going to be easy to get them to reverse course on the Rivers of America. And as much as I don't like, you know, the dopey little store that they built outside the Haunted Mansion, it could be knocked down in 5 minutes and be replaced. Once they gut Rivers of America, there's no going back. There's no going back. You like the snark? I started doing these, Stacy. This iteration we just started this week. I used to do radio ages ago before I ever did the live streaming. We used to do these radio shows in a much more limited capacity in the early days of these lives. I used to do them more on Instagram. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a radio show maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mornings. All right. And then, you know, we'll do all of our other stuff. Like I said, parks and gaming and all these other things. But I like the long form format. Kenzie will join me for the pre-recorded podcast on the weekends. You can listen to all of this stuff wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, what we're doing today is on YouTube as well. You like the snark? Well, Wanda likes the snark. Look, all I'm saying is if Disney is really looking at the outcry, then the outcry is lost in the shuffle if everything's at the same level. That's all I'm saying. So, listen, who doesn't like a little snark? But at the end of the day, do I really care about a shed outside of the Haunted Mansion? No. It just proves the larger point that the people running the company are completely disconnected from what makes the brand so special. But as far as Rivers of America is concerned, beyond the permitting, our only chance is to be focused and to actually be heard. And you're going to do that by getting those numbers up on that petition. You're going to do that by getting that petition out there to people online who can share it with their audiences outside of the Disney bubble and break into the larger media landscape. Once the issue becomes marginally politicized by the media, then you'll get traction. And I'm sorry, that's just the truth. If you really want to get attention on it, politicize it. You may as well listen, you got to play the game to win. You know what I mean? The only reason Splash Mountain got rethemed is because it was politicized. Politicized Rivers of America. Embarrass Disney. Watch them respond. Although it's very possible that the government here in Florida is already taking on the fight. I don't know what the permitting process has yielded, and I don't think anyone's looked it up and sent me a message on it yet. If I remember, I will look it up later today. But it's a bit of a Hail Mary. They told them they needed more data on the state of the land behind the river. And I'm paraphrasing, but they needed more data before they could approve the permit. So maybe Maybe that's our saving grace. But even to that point, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So go find the petition. It's on Discord. It's on change.org. James put it back into the circulation on Discord the other day. Let's get that thing to 1,000+ signatures. Start to get that out there to people online. Use Twitter. Twitter is a great way to break through into the media. Okay? Leverage those tools. Otherwise, next summer, y'all are going to come to Disney World on vacation, and you're going to see a big mound of dirt between the Haunted Mansion and Big Thunder Mountain. And I'm telling you, when that day comes is the day that I probably tap out. Because that, to me, is appalling, and it is just the antithesis of what makes Disney parks so special. So forgive me for griping about the rivers of America. Forgive me for griping about the rivers of America. Sometimes I talk so fast I start to slur. We are 2.5 hours into the show. The phone number is 253-263-1540. Give us a call. I've covered everything. I mean, I got a whole list here. A whole list. We talked about so much today, you know. Of course you can't wait for the new Ray movies. Ellis, that's my whole point, man. The new Ray movies. They're probably not even going to happen, let's be honest. Because how many didn't Kevin, was it Feige? How do you say his last name? I always want to say Kevin Feige. But he was supposed to be doing a Star Wars movie. Every Star Wars movie that's been announced has been canceled. All right? I think the maintenance issue for the river is more the island. There's obviously maintenance with the water, dealing with the water and the track, because most people don't even realize that the riverboat's on a track. But yeah, there's operational issues. I don't think that the complaints from operations was about the river so much as it was about the island. But again, if the decision, because again, it's all about solving problems, right? They don't do things in the parks, and this is their own words. You can listen to them tell you this. They don't do things just for the fun of it, right? They're trying to solve a problem. So if the problem they're trying to solve by getting rid of Tom Sawyer Island and rivers of America, as I start to stutter, if the problem they're trying to solve is to satiate operations, then they're not even thinking about theme, right? They're like, hey, operations is complaining. Let's satiate them. What do you got? Go to the shelf, pull a stock ride system off the shelf. What IP would be best with this stock ride that we just took off the shelf? Oh, great. Cars. Slap it on. Get Bob to sign off on it. Done. That's all. Now, if it was a capacity issue, then wouldn't you say that the Villains Land expansion would be enough? Wouldn't you suggest, if it was a real capacity issue, that expanding one of the other gates like Hollywood Studios would be enough? If you don't need more capacity at the Magic Kingdom, you need to have more of your rides running concurrently. There used to be a time when you would go to Disney and all the rides were running. If you want more capacity, which you don't need because, again, the Magic Kingdom was the most popular theme park last year across the globe. But if you want more capacity, you got 40 square miles. It doesn't have to be within the Magic Kingdom. You are not hurting for guests entering the Magic Kingdom. 404, you're on the air.
Hey, Royce, longtime fan of yours. Nice to see you doing a new format. My name's Scott, calling from Atlanta. Wanted to just kind of talk about State of Imagineering and continue the conversation of what you got going on right now.
Appreciate that, Scott. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? You think Imagineering is imagining, or are they just engineering?
I think, hiring that lady from Ginsler as head of Imagineering a while ago, luckily she's gone now, but I think what we're seeing now with, say, the Disneyland Haunted Mansion gift shop and the cheapening of theming, the DVC, hotel tower, that is the Polynesian now. I think what you're seeing is kind of Bob Chapek's, okay, let's hire someone outside and bring them in who really doesn't know Disney, doesn't know storytelling or theming, And what you're seeing is, how do we do what Disney does on the cheap side? And so hopefully they can course correct. But I think that's kind of what phase we're in right now, is in the past, 2 to 3, 4 years, everything come to fruition now is you're seeing, the Gensler influence from that head of Imagineering that they hired. I think the new head of Imagineering coming back is great, but I feel like they don't have anybody to kind of lead the light or hold the candle because of the whole Lake Nona issue, and then trying to move them across the country, as well as, quite frankly, kind of gutting Imagineering where it is. They don't have storytellers anymore. They just have architects. And what you're seeing is the cheapening, in my opinion, of Disney Imagineering and how we do it on the cheap and everything coming to fruition, right? The lighting that's around Epcot that doesn't work. That back in the day, that wouldn't be an issue. It would have worked. It would have been designed properly.
And that's not even an Imagineering. That's a facilities issue. That's the problem there. That's a straight up facilities issue.
Yeah.
On the Imagineering front, I think they've lost a lot of good talent to Universal, and good for those guys for defecting. I don't think that Imagineering is being given the rope anymore. I think everything is coming top down. I don't actually blame Chapek. Go find that article. I think it was New York Times. You probably already read it. But it turns out that a lot of these were Iger decisions. Now, thankfully, the flip side to not decimating all 40 square miles of Disney World is that at some point there's plenty of space to expand and sort of override by volume the bad decisions. I don't think they're going to go knocking down a DVC tower, but they got plenty of land to build better themed hotels that actually appeal to the general consumer, not the Star Wars cruise ship in a warehouse thing that they were marketing. Because that's all that was. The Star Wars hotel was a cruise ship in a warehouse. Who wants that? I don't want to do that. New Cars ride that's opening, and they'll totally pay those crazy prices. Once this Cars ride finally opens, they would have already gone the Epic. And that's few and far between. So I think at the end of the day, it's a wash. Right. I think from the long-term perspective, it hurts the brand. But from the short-term perspective, I think it's a complete wash because I don't think it moves the needle. Like short-term.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Long-term, I think it turns the Magic Kingdom into Six Flags, and long-term will ultimately erode park attendance because the differentiating factor will no longer be there. Something that you want to show your kids because your parents showed you will no longer be there. And people are going to be like, you're really giving that much credit to the Rivers of America? Yes, I am.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's one of the worst decisions, quite frankly, made by Disney in the most recent years is to get rid of something, even if it's not a high capacity, right? Or that it's placemaking, right? It's number two, it's history, it's the ability to sit and eat a pretzel staring out on the Rivers of America, right? And to your point, you don't have that at Six Flags, right? We keep seeing, Tron's a great ride if you like, a 58-second ride, through a show building and then a roof over a roller coaster. Villains Land, they're showing an exposed roller coaster, right? Disney used to be, the creators and the imagination of we're not going to just build roller coasters,
right.
Build roller
show
coasters.
Buildings and dark rides. Yeah. But listen,
exactly.
But let's take it a step further for a second, because I don't think most people are even thinking or discussing the real truth behind Rivers of America and what it represents. When you aside from the fact that all of that water there provides a really cool breeze in the humidity, okay? Aside from that, when you stand there and you look out across the rivers of America, and I don't care which way you choose to look, okay? It represents possibility and opportunity, okay? It is part of Frontierland. It is right there. It represents the future. Okay, even though it speaks to the past, the whole entire area there between Liberty Square and Frontierland is supposed to represent opportunity. So when you look out across the river and you look into the trees, Okay? It's open opportunity. It's undeveloped land that represents potential. The irony of decimating that and removing that theme, I can't highlight that enough. It's supposed to speak to the American dream. You look out across the water into the trees and you see vast opportunity, open land, the frontier. It's all ahead of you. It's all ahead of us. Opportunity knocks. Limitless opportunity. That's what Frontierland and the rivers of America were built to represent.
Couldn't agree with you more, sir.
Thank you for calling. Appreciate you. Call back, please. A lot of great conversationalists today. Really, truly. And that's why I love doing this. 253-263-1540. Yeah, the view is fantastic. But again, it's a thematic decision to have put that there. It represents something. And I'm sorry, but we have to remember what this country was built upon, the opportunities that this country represents, the foundation of our founding fathers, the ideals and the principles that this country was built upon. If we lose our understanding of that, irrespective of a theme park, if we lose our understanding of that, we'll never find our way back to the middle. Because everybody will put their own self-interest first. And that's why I want to have these conversations. It's not just a theme park. It represents so much more. It represents so much more. It just speaks to what is so unique about this country. We have the ability in this country to do anything. Generally speaking, the American dream is there and alive. It should be available for everyone. And unfortunately, it's not. Totally different conversation. But what that section of the Magic Kingdom represents is that opportunity. And what you would like to think is that the people running the company understand that the founder knew that. And the founder knew that irrespective of the data, it will resonate with the consumer. When you take your child to the park and you put them out there on that bridge overlooking the water, it'll be like, this is something I've never seen before. You don't find this anywhere else. It is just a spark. It is that spark for the American dream. It is that spark of imagination. It is all represented right there. And the idea of getting rid of it because it's a cost or an operational nightmare, that's not our problem. That's your problem. It wasn't a problem for 50 years. It wasn't a problem. Maybe the issue is the people you have in operations. And we're going to get some folks on from the parks anonymously to talk to you and tell you the truth about what's going on behind the scenes, okay? I got plenty of people lined up to talk to you anonymously, and we're really going to start whistleblowing, all right? 253-263-1540. I made a joke the other day that Main Street will be renamed Mickey Mouse Avenue at some point. I mean, that's where we're headed. And I don't know why. I don't know why people are so afraid to celebrate the country. And that's what Disney parks were built on. The foundation of Disney parks was Americana. Point blank, period. I hope you are enjoying this. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal. All right. That's going to show me that you like what we're doing, and we'll do more of these. We'll podcast it out. It's on YouTube. We're going to get there. But yeah, no, I got people lined up to talk. And look, I have so many stories about things gone wrong in the park, but I'm only one person. If you start hearing them from the mouth of the people that still work there, it's going to hit differently. I could keep telling you the same stuff over and over again, even different stories, but it's still only coming from one person. We're going to get some folks on. We're going to talk to them, okay? And we're going to start exposing what's going on behind the scenes, because the folks that I know love the place and are really saddened by the fact that they can't get anything done, All right. And I've got relationships with folks in all the parks. All right. I'm privy to information that I can't share. All right. But the reason people give me information is because they know that they can trust me. All right. So there's lots of folks that are going to join us at some point on that journey into whistleblowing with the parks. 253-263-1540. Thank you for contributing to the gift goal. Thank you, Maria. Thank you. I'm trying. It's an evolution. We'll get into the parks. I promise we'll get into the parks. But at least if we can do 3+ hours of this Monday through Wednesday, we can start the conversation. And like I said Monday morning when I started this, one of the things that I really enjoyed during this last hiatus, if you will, was being able to rally our community together to help Keena's community in North Carolina. And it reminds me that there's so much more to what we've built together than playing. And I'm all for playing, but we need to have a format for long-form conversation. I can't have these conversations with you running through a park. You know what I mean? Thank you for calling in, Jessica. All right. Oh, my gosh, a Long Islander. I know a 516. Whoa, hey, now, I know a 516 area code any day of the week.
How are you? Jim from Long Island. How are you, sir?
Long Island. Is A&S Bagels still there?
What town was that in?
Jericho Turnpike, right off Garden City.
Garden City? No, that's gone. They changed names left, right, and center out here. You can pop a bagel place in and have it gone in a week.
A&S Bagels is gone. It's an institution. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, Garden City and all that has changed just like the parks change.
I went to school in Adelphi.
Source Mall is. Yeah, my daughter goes to Malloy in Garden City.
Oh, wow. Small world. Well, thank you for calling, sir. What's on your mind?
Well, talking about how you were talking about Rivers of America with the zoning and all that, I used to be a building inspector and dealing with zoning. With all the wetlands that are behind the parks, that's going to be their biggest issue.
Yeah, and I don't know how they didn't.
The wetlands.
You would think they would have done their homework.
The wetlands are an issue. Well, they do, but they try to push it through, and then it's just now that they don't have the control of the municipality, they can't do and destroy whatever they think they can. There's a whole due gamut nowadays with wetlands and wildlife and all that. So they're going to have a hard time pushing it through the state agency now. They don't have the carte blanche that they used to when they ran the municipality.
Now, what makes the Rivers of America section separate from the Villains Land expansion? Is it just where the land is?
Where the land is and how much wetlands they're taking away. I don't know what's behind. I know they park the boats and all that stuff behind Big Thunder, but there's a lot more ground down there. And as you know, as anybody knows, there's gators and everything in Rivers of America. Now you're transplanting wildlife, which is wildlife is not something you can play with anymore.
So did you see the response to the permits that came out a few weeks back?
I read over it a little, and they said they needed more in-depth surveying. So, with anything like that kind of an issue, they have to do core sampling to show what's underneath and, how they're going to move all the wildlife, but not only that, but replace the green space that they remove, all those trees, all that vegetation. When you strip a land, you got to bring back something to rebuild that wildlife harborage that was there.
Listening to what you're saying, it sounds to me like the dismantling of Reedy Creek was a blessing in disguise.
For this issue, yeah, I think it is.
That's
because
wild.
I feel like removing Rivers of America is like taking away the lagoon in the middle of Epcot and putting a ride there.
Sure, absolutely. Now the difference being is that's man-made, so you wouldn't have the same pushback.
But Rivers of America is man-made also, but because it's been established for so long, it brings its own own ecology system where there's all wildlife and vegetation that, you have to replace somehow, because they're not going to let you wipe it all out and just call it land. Like you say, it brings moisture, it brings cool breeze in the hot summer. How are you going to replace all those trees and all that vegetation? You got to give somewhere back.
No, it's interesting.
And they don't have the area to give back anymore.
As much as it's man-made, you're right, it's not. It's completely ingratiated into the ecosystem to the point that it actually drains into it, right? So...
Yep. Yeah, it goes right back to, it diverts right into Seven Seas Lagoon and all the little bayou waterlocks that they have behind the Magic Kingdom.
So in your opinion, do you think truncation is an option? Or is that's still the same issue, because now you're actually cutting off the waterway access, theoretically?
Yeah, you're cutting off the waterway access. You drive that area all the time. They have all those waterways that they have to divert all the water. Now think you take away the water of Rivers of America, now you're going to have an influx of even more drainage issues.
Yeah, it was funny. I said earlier.
So I think that's going to be their downfall.
Like I always knew it was man-made. I always knew there was a track under there. But and I know there's gators in there because we've seen them on the live. But, I never stopped to think about how that was actually connected to the whole ecosystem, irrespective of being man-made. Because to your, like the lagoon in Epcot, there's stuff in there. But I would imagine if they decide, and I hope they never do this, but if they decided to touch that, they probably would not get the same environmental pushback.
No, they wouldn't. It's man-made. It's in the middle of cement. It's probably underneath is just a cement floor in that lagoon because of all the equipment they put in and put out of it. So, but other than the track that's in there and the little waterway, as you know, that waterway connects to the backstage where they have the lagoon parade connected to and all that. So it's waterways that, is it ecology? Because, animals are in there, trees are in there. You just can't remove that and expect to be everything okay.
This is going to sound really geeky, but one of my favorite roads on all of Disney World property, and yes, I have a favorite road on Disney World property, it happens when you are there all the time, is the road right behind the Magic Kingdom. It cuts between Floridian, and it goes all the way around the back of Big Thunder Mountain, okay, and as you follow it around, it's Storybook Circus, and then you come up on Tomorrowland, and then on your left-hand side is the Contemporary. And if anybody, it's a public road.
Wow.
If anybody's driven that road, it is swamp back there, man. It is swamp. They have vehicles across the way staged right now. I haven't seen any major activity in a while, but I get an earshot of that every time I come on property. And they're staged. They're staged for it, okay? But just driving past it and looking at it, I mean, it's swampland. It's like legit swampland. It's not, there's a lot of land on property that has been like developed. I mean, it's undeveloped land, but it's been developed, like side of the road stuff. You know what I mean? This is like, this is like the same land from the day Walt bought it. It is like literally untouched land back there. So I just can't even imagine the cost to get that suitable for construction. Like, why build it?
It'd be, and then once you add Rivers of America, take it away, the water's got to go somewhere.
That's what I'm
saying. The water doesn't go away. It's got to move somewhere. And that swampland, especially if it's public roadways, now it affects an access road that could affect commuters, fire department responses, EMS responses. And, the water's going to go there and it's going to fill up that area, and you're going to have roads that, obviously you saw with the hurricane swamped out. Now just imagine it on a regular storm because they don't have Rivers of America to take up the excess water.
So speaking of that, there's the Reams Road, which goes right behind the Magic Kingdom, which is the road that you would turn off of if you're a cast member to go behind the Magic Kingdom to park, where Disney University is. Mm-hmm. Reams Road goes right to Floridian. I take Reams Road every day. Reams Road was flooded for a week after the hurricane. on both ends of Reams Road. It's a 10-minute drive from my house to the Polynesian. But with the Reams Road flooding, it was a 45-minute drive. A week after the hurricane, to your point, flooding on both ends of the street. Sat there. So
and now you're going to have that of an issue with normal storms if they take away, where water can go in an emergency
and in
a regular storm.
You're just talking about the environment and logistics. Add theme park operations to that. If they even got away with doing all of this, now you're putting this giant outdoor trackless attraction out there that's going to go 101 every time there's a thunderstorm. You're not even putting something out there that's actually going to contribute to capacity. Not that I buy that logic.
No, you can have something. And then also the other aspect is all the rainwater that's going to hit that track and all the walking spaces in there. So, we see all the TikTok videos of the flooding that's going on in the parks. Now add all that concrete and tile work. Now see what happens with the drainage system in that park.
So what would you do? You would just leave it?
My personal opinion is they should be looking at the island itself and doing what they kind of did in Disneyland. It was the same concept, of Tom Sawyer's Island and everything like that. And in California, they revamped it for like the Pirates.
Right.
Come up with some sort of theme.
But that doesn't
update everything on the island.
That doesn't solve the operational issue. If operations is complaining, retheming doesn't solve it. You know what I mean? I'm actually curious.
Yeah, but operations going to have to deal with whatever's there.
Well, so the problem is operations, not the island. I'm curious. I don't think you'll have the answer to this, but is there a tunnel that goes under Rivers of America to the island?
There's got to be because there's no other access. You never see when I was a kid. I used to go there almost every year when I was a kid from New York, and you would never see guys get on the rafts to go across to do the food supplies for the little restaurant there.
I mean, there's got to be a utility.
How did they get all that stuff there?
Right. You would think logically. I mean, they built Rivers of America. So then my question is, if there's access to it underground, then what's the operational nightmare? There is no tunnel to the island?
Exactly.
Somebody's saying there's no tunnel to the island. So make a tunnel to the island.
Well, then how do they get... Yeah, but how do they get people there? You don't see people, the rafts that go over there, you don't see people getting shuttled over on the rafts to go work the restaurant when it was open.
There was
clean it or bring garbage back and forth.
Snack bar at the island, Greg. Snack bar, not a full restaurant, like a quick service deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Back in the day, it was like Aunt Anne's restaurant or something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like they serve French fries, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It used to be a little more than a little quick service thing, but they used to have a bit of a better menu back in the 80s.
Listen, nothing says a day at Disney like taking the boats to Tom Sawyer Island and buying an $8 Uncrustable. That is life. But somebody is saying that no, if you look at the map, they would load ahead of opening, which makes sense. So, I bet you back then those were real peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. No more.
Oh, definitely, they weren't regular peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Just the same sandwiches you used to be able to get at River Country when that was open.
River Country. Yeah, listen, I'm all for change. I get it, and there's always going to be that argument. But Walt didn't want the parks to evolve without purpose, without merit. He wanted to plus them. And I don't see... Yeah. And look, they're not even solving a good problem. So that alone tells you they're not plussing the park. I don't know. I really, really hope that the permitting thing is the thing that holds them up. And it's got to, what do you think? It's a 6-month process to get all the information they need?
It depends on how much stuff they need. And there's nothing to say that when they supply that the municipality turns around and says, not good enough, I want more.
So,
which happens quite frequently.
So who would you suggest people should reach out to on the government side then? Whatever Reedy Creek is now? What is it, the Florida Tourist Commission or whatever it's called?
Florida Tourist Commission would be one place. And also the conservationists. people that, don't want, animals affected,
Right.
Wildlife harmed, anybody that wants to keep, trees and vegetation and keep green space. Those kind of people are the people that hit up, because they're the ones that, they have the push, they have the knowledge, and they have the abilities to tweak the people that need to be tweaked. Because, we all know the Disney company, once, like Greenpeace or something like that would open their mouth, they're going to bend over backwards. They did that with all the animals in the animal kingdom when they were going to open it,
Oh, there was a huge backlash.
How much pushback was, yeah. So, now you're talking about, you're talking about a zoo kind of situation. Back then, now you're talking about true wildlife that, is not, taken care of by humans, fed by humans or anything like that. These are scavengers that need the area to feed. So those are the kind of people that you got to get up on the bandwagon. I was the one that asked you 3 or 4 days ago if we could put up the petition.
Yeah, I'm all for
when
it.
you were talking about it.
The problem is we need millions.
That's the people that.
Yeah, but listen.
Yeah, but if you give that to the people that believe in keeping the wildlife societies and all that stuff, get them that petition and let them run with it also.
So there you go. So take that petition, folks. To everyone listening, there's over 100 people listening on TikTok. Take that petition and start. I'm telling you, Twitter is the best tool for breaking into the news cycle. I've done it historically. You've heard my stories over the years. Okay. What you start to do is to identify these folks. What was your name again, sir?
Jim.
So go find these different entities that Jim is referencing, right? Start sharing the petition with them. Start highlighting the environmental concerns. Start highlighting the concerns about the wildlife. And let's see what we can do. But it sounds like we've got a little bit of a window. I can't imagine if Reedy Creek was still intact, if they would just barrel through with it or not. Obviously, they don't care. They'll do whatever they want. But, man, I can't believe.
Oh, Reedy Creek would have rubber stamped it and sent it on its way. Now that you have somebody else pushing the buttons, they're not gonna be too quick to push it. So,
but see, this is why
and municipalities, municipalities are phenomenally for being slow when it comes to these kind of things.
But see, this is why we have to be open-minded. But Jim, this is why we have to be open-minded as people, just like across the board, because conventional wisdom at the time said, F DeSantis for coming after Reedy Creek, leave us alone, right? Like that, everybody was outraged. Like, why are you coming for Disney? And he was coming for all the wrong reasons, whatever. But sometimes things happen for the right reasons. And like in hindsight, and I'm not trying to, apologize for the guy, but in hindsight, that's a blessing. So sometimes I think we have to be more open-minded about things. We all vilified Chapek. We learned that Chapek was just a scapegoat,
Yeah. No, I agree. Sometimes it's the blessing in disguise. Now there's somebody else thinking for it than just the profit-going company looking to see how quick they can expedite something over and just see how much they can turn a profit off of it as quick as possible.
See, I wonder how much that permit affects villains or just the Rivers and Tom Sawyer component, because they're obviously from my understanding, Villains Land is going to basically go from the back of Big Thunder Mountain all the way over to about Storybook Circus, or maybe not quite that far, maybe to about Small World-ish, I think. But I don't know.
That's gonna, it could affect it because the draining of that river has to be done before they can move that stuff for Villains Land, because you got to push it somewhere.
Now here's the other thing. So let's say they move forward with this project. Are they going to put walls up around the river, or are we going to basically be watching bulldozers driving around out there for 2 years like it's some sort of like, Thunderdome or something? Like that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like Twisted Metal out there.
Yeah. Well, if you remember how they built Splash Mountain when they built that in the early 90s, you could sit on the steamboat and you could see all the crane operation and everything like that.
Yeah.
They're going to put up the usual, 8 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot scrim wooden wall, all brown because it's, Frontierland. It's got to look dirty and everything like that. And that's all you're going to get. And anybody that's 6 feet taller or walking around is going to be able to see all the machinery, equipment, all the workers.
Even more than that, you're going to hear it. Yeah. And I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't see, to the last caller's point, I don't see any net positives. I really think it's a wash. And again, if the reason they're doing it is purely to satiate operations, then they're doing it for all the wrong reasons. Close down the island.
Definitely.
Just close down the island.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, close down the island, kind of like what they did with that island over in the middle of the water where that was the nature preserve.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
There's definitely precedent on how to do this the right way, but we'll see. Listen, I appreciate the insight. Please keep calling. I mean, I love getting educated, man. I mean, that is so cool. So how long have you been doing this kind of work?
I was a building inspector for almost 20 years.
Are you retired now?
Yeah, I retired. I went into the private sector. Now I'm a construction project manager.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, the permitting process, man. Jeez. I've had limited experience with it, and it's to go into the desk, go into the counter was never a fun time.
No. And permits can take as quick as 3 months, and I've seen permits sit for 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest, a lot of that's greasing the wheels, right?
Yeah, but quite honestly, Disney can't grease the wheels of that board anymore. They don't have it, and they got a lot of pushback on that board now.
Yeah.
So it's not a quick how you do walk in the door, walk out the back door with everything you need.
Crazy. It's really crazy to think about, because I was one of those people that was outraged about Reedy Creek being replaced, and I was wrong.
Oh, I was as well.
Yeah. Thank God it happened.
I was as well.
Wow.
Right. I how Disney always said it all started with a mouse.
Yeah.
Really, Magic Kingdom all started with Frontierland. That was his baby. That was his thing. And now you're going to rip it up and throw it in the garbage and mutilate it?
And then again, It's hot enough as it is. The park is already mostly concrete. So you're going to rip out the rivers, which provides a really nice reprieve from the humidity. So, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there's a variety of different things that I think point to this being a bad decision. Not just, hey, putting cars in the rivers of America kind of stinks. Like, sure, absolutely it stinks. But there are other real considerations. The wildlife, the guest experience of having less water and more concrete. I mean, it's already blazing hot out there when you're waiting for the parade. Blazing hot in the middle of summer waiting for the parade. And you're going to rip out the cool breeze. Aside from the theme, so many reasons to not do this. But I love what you said, Jim. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, sir. Keep doing what you do. We love it.
Thank you. I appreciate the support. I will keep doing it, and please keep calling. I love this. I really do. And I really do love this phone system. This is the way to do it. It's not like they can't solve the operational problem some other way, and I make the snarky comment about replacing the operations managers. But at the end of the day, there's more than one solution to the problem. And somebody brought up Bruce Vaughan earlier. Why somebody like that didn't stand up in the meeting when getting rid of Rivers of America was pitched and putting in Cars Land. Why somebody like that, who had the ability to stand up and say something, Why didn't he? That's what I want to know. I have a hard time believing that there isn't somebody within Imagineering that doesn't have a better solution. There's got to be a better solution. All right. We have a new phone number, so make sure you write this down, 253-263-1540. It must be raining out there. I hear rain hitting the window. It must be raining out there. Give us a call, new phone system, and we'll wrap it up in a minute, but it's been a pleasure to talk to you all today, 253-263-1540. And like I said, I'll podcast this out. If you want to show your support, helping us knock out that gift goal is going to go a long way. I appreciate that. And then, of course, you've got TV Remix. You can lend your support over there. There's lots of free content as well. Better than subbing on TikTok. Better to sub on TV Remix, kind of like a Patreon, and much more support for the creator on that side as far as the rev split goes. If you are looking to book a trip, if you want help booking a trip, go to my website, royces.com. We can help you book your trip. It's another great way to support the operation because the commissions from your trip are paid by Disney. They're already built into your trip. And if you're interested in joining us in Tokyo, that's going to be a lot of fun. So there's a lot going on. And, of course, follow on YouTube, follow on Instagram. What we'll do is we'll wrap up today's show. We'll podcast that out. I'll do a pre-recorded weekly episode with Kenzie over the weekend. I think maybe tomorrow you might see me pop up in the parks. No promises. I was going to try to keep it a surprise, so just kind of be on the lookout for that. But I really do enjoy speaking with you all. And my goal is to do this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings from around 8:30 a.m. till about noon, okay? So that gives us about, what is that, 3.5 hours? Just shy of a 4-hour show. You know, if you were doing a proper radio show in the old days with commercial breaks and everything, would be right on the mark. 253-263-1540. The earnings call comes out tomorrow. I'll be curious to see what that does to the stock price. Okay, so I'm sure you'll hear me talking about that this weekend. And then, of course, Monday, we'll take your calls. We'll talk about that as well. I hope Tezzy calls in Monday. I want to hear what Tezzy has to say. The stock was trading at about $100. I have not looked at the market yet today. I should probably have a dashboard up here for the stock market. But we'll see what the earnings call does. I would love to see the stock push back over $110 and make its way towards $120. It's going to take a minute. I know we have Moana coming out soon. I don't know what else is happening in terms of motion pictures to move the needle. And certainly there's not enough going on in the parks right now from a positive perspective to move the needle. But we'll see what the earnings call says tomorrow. And we'll see how they polish the turd, because that's what those calls generally are, right? Nobody gets on an earnings call and says, we messed up, right? It's all the term polishing the turd. If you're in business, you've heard it before. 253-263-1540. I'll hang for another minute, take another call or two. We'll wrap it up. I'll podcast it out. And that's another day in the can, folks. We'll game a little bit later. I want to do that. So help us out by knocking out that gift goal. I want to know your thoughts. You know, Jim just stated that if we actually got together and started collectively informing those that will advocate for the wildlife component, okay, if we start finding the environmentalists and start sharing that petition with them, that's a great idea on Jim's behalf to start getting some more notice. You know, getting outside of just the Disney fandom of it all and addressing the real concerns. That was a really good suggestion on Jim's behalf. So go find that petition. It's on moveon.org. Start finding environmentalists, start finding animal rights advocates, and start sending them the petition and tell them, hey, this needs to be dealt with. Help us get more eyes on this. Help us get more signatures and force Disney to respond. I love that. That's a brilliant angle, Jim. Great job. I don't know. I see bickering in the chat. That's generally why I keep the chat off, but it's not distracting me today. 253-263-1540. If somebody in the Discord could reshare the link to the petition, and if you're not in the Discord, if you're not in the Discord, please go to the website, and there's a link up there. You can add yourself to the Discord via the website. All right? I love that idea. Let's do it. Let's do it. And with your help, maybe by the time we are sitting in front of the mic together again next Monday, we'll have an update. Maybe by Monday, we've broken 1,000 signatures. But I love that idea, Jim. Great idea. Would have never had that conversation without this. So thank you all so much. I'm going to wrap it up. Phone lines are quiet. It's about 12:45. Okay. So take a moment here to go to the Discord, to join the Discord. Go to the general chat, whatever they call it over there. Find the link to the petition. It's on moveon.org. Sign the petition and share the petition. If everybody listening right now signs the petition and shares the petition, that's going to get us just a little bit closer to 1,000 signatures. I don't know the signature count at the moment. What's funny is that now that the comments are on, everybody's on the TikTok side, not the YouTube side. So it's kind of weird because the YouTube side has gone quiet. As soon as I turn off the comments on TikTok, everybody jumps to the other side. Thank you, Stephanie. All right. I appreciate you all. Go sign a signature. If you want to fight the fight, I'm there with you, but I can't do it on my own. But if you all show me that you're motivated, then we've got a lot of work to do. All right. I appreciate you all. Thank you all for calling. Thank you so much, Ellis. Enough with the Ray. Oy vey, Izmir. I appreciate you all, and I will see you soon. Thank you so much. Thank you all for the support on TikTok. I'm going to keep TikTok going for a minute. I'll see you all soon.